Namaste, welcome to another episode of Nava Vimarsh podcast. So today we have for the first time with us the LPI, the Libertarian Party of India spokesperson Tushar and Anup. So namaste and Jai Shri Ram to all of you.
Namaste.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so today we are going to have audience interaction, but that we will have a little bit later. Okay. In your previous interaction with CSK, Politics Kolkata, you had talked about primarily on the economic aspect of your policies, party policies or organization policies. But in my opinion and understanding, you build a nation, and the foundation of a nation is its identity as who they are, and identity is linked to the place you are born, the environment you are born, okay, the kind of traditions, the kind of customs that you are born with. Okay. So how does, and I'm not talking about identity as a kind of a divisive, but a kind of a glue which keeps a nation together. America is a Christian nation. Britain, England is a Christian nation. Most of the European Union, except France, is a Christian nation. But France, except France, others are a Christian nation. So they have a Judeo-Christian heritage. Okay. Now, when I went to your, let me just share my screen to give you a better perspective. When I went to your X handle, I can see pro-market, pro-merit, pro-freedom, and pro-Indic civilization. I haven't seen you people talk a lot about this policy of pro-Indic civilization. So could you give our viewers, our subscribers, an intro, a summary into what do you mean by a pro-Indic civilization party?
First of all, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thanks for inviting us. दो एस्पेक्ट है प्रो इंडिक सिविलाइजेशन के. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल एक एक्सटर्नल एस्पेक्ट है कि जैसे जो वेस्टर्न लिबर्टेरियंस हैं वो कहते हैं कि हम लिबर्टेरियनिज्म को क्रिश्चियन वैल्यू से डिराइव करते हैं. मेरे को थोड़ा समझ में नहीं आया कि हिस्ट्री इंडिकेट नहीं करती कि कैसे क्रिश्चियन सिविलाइजेशन क्रिश्चियन वैल्यू से होता है. मगर जब मैंने इंडिक वैल्यूज ऑफ इंडिविजुअलिज्म, मोक्ष, धर्म, अर्थ, काम, मोक्ष, इनसे मैच करके देखा तो मैंने देखा कि ये इनसे ज्यादा अलाइनमेंट में है. तो और दूसरी बात जो इससे जो रिलेटेड एस्पेक्ट है वो ये है कि मतलब कि एक ना लुक डाउन अपॉन वाली फीलिंग. पहले तो इसको मानते हैं कि फॉरेन आइडियोलॉजी है, जो कि नहीं है. दूसरी बात, जो इसके थोड़े बिलीवर है, जो थोड़े वेस्टर्न आइडियाज वाले हैं, वो सोचते हैं कि इंडिया तो बेकार है, इंडिया की सिविलाइजेशन बेकार है, इसी वजह से इंडिया की ये हालत है. जबकि पूरा का पूरा ब्लेम इंडिया के डाउनफॉल का सोशलिज्म को जाता है, जो मतलब इंडिपेंडेंट इंडिया को. इससे पहले तो कॉलोनियलिज्म था, मगर सोशलिज्म को सारा ब्लेम जाता है. इंडिया की सिविलाइजेशन में इंट्रिंसिकली ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. क्योंकि जहां तक बात करें उसकी इंडिया की हिस्ट्री की बात करें तो इंडिया का एक स्टेटिस्टिक बताता हूँ. इंडिया का जो रोम के साथ ट्रेड था, 1/3 ऑफ द रोमन एक्सचेकर वाज ट्रेड विद इंडिया, जो टैरिफ्स लगते थे उस पे. और मतलब कभी भी हिस्ट्री में ऐसा नहीं रहा है कि कोई किसी इंडियन राजा ने आगे क्लेम किया हो कि नहीं ट्रेड बंद करो, या हिंदू राजा ने आगे क्लेम किया हो कि नहीं ट्रेड बंद करो, या फिर नहीं मार्केट में मैं जबरदस्ती घुसूंगा. इकोनॉमिक्स सेपरेट थी और राजा का ड्यूटी होती थी कि रूल ऑफ लॉ को अपहोल्ड करना, धर्म को अपहोल्ड करना. तो ये ज्यादा मेरे को लगा कि मतलब इट इज वे मोर अलाइंड टू लिबर्टेरियन वैल्यूज एज कंपेयर टू सोशलिज्म और व्हाटएवर सॉर्ट ऑफ अमलगमेशन आजकल के एकेडमिया होल्ड करते हैं. तो ये स्टार्टिंग पॉइंट ये था. उसके बाद धीरे धीरे जैसे आप स्टडी करते हो तो आपको पता चलता है हिस्ट्री में कि इंडिया में जैसे 101 लिबर्टेरियनिज्म एक थॉट है एनार्को कैपिटलिज्म का. तो ऐसे ही इंडिया में मतलब नार्को कैपिटलिज्म तो नहीं था, मगर मर्चेंट गिल्ड्स होती थी. मर्चेंट गिल्ड्स ट्रेड को ड्राइव करती थी, और मर्चेंट गिल्ड्स हर टाइप की होती थी. उसकी ट्रेडर्स की मर्चेंट गिल्ड मिलेगी, बैंकर्स की मिलेगी, अलग अलग मतलब लेबर्स की भी मिलेगी. तो ये अलग अलग गिल्ड्स होती थी और ये खुद ही सारे इकोनॉमिक अफेयर्स आपस में ही मैनेज करती थी गवर्नमेंट, और इनका काफी हाई इन्फ्लुएंस भी होता था। और जहां तक टेम्पल्स की बात है, टेम्पल सिर्फ प्लेसेस ऑफ वर्शिप नहीं थे, टेम्पल्स प्लेसेस ऑफ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट भी थे। वो इंडिया में भी थे और कॉन्ट्रैक्ट और लोन भी थे, मतलब फाइनेंस भी थे, और ये इंडिया में भी थे और वो ग्रीस में भी थे। तो इंडिया का जो ट्रेड जो साउथ ईस्ट एशिया के साथ होता था, उसमें जो ट्रेड कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स वगैरह लिखे जाते थे, उसके उड़ीसा में रिकॉर्ड्स पड़े हैं, उड़ीसा के टेम्पल में रिकॉर्ड्स पड़े हैं। क्यों? क्योंकि वहां पे जाके साइन होते थे और लोन्स वगैरह जो इशू होते थे, वो फंक्शन भी एक होल्ड होता था, मतलब कैरी आउट होता था उसमें। तो कोई मतलब हिंदू सोसाइटी में ऐसा बाय नेचर ऐसा कुछ अगेंस्ट नहीं है कॉमर्स के या फिर अपना उसके इंडिविजुअल फ्रीडम के। तो इस वजह से प्रो इंडिक सिविलाइजेशन स्टांस नेचुरल था। और जो वैसे मतलब हर हर इंडिया क्रॉस इंडिया आपको वेरिएशन मिल सकते हैं कस्टम्स के, मगर इन फंडामेंटल वैल्यूज पे एग्रीमेंट मिलेगा कि धर्म, अर्थ, काम और मोक्ष, ये चार जो एसेंशियल कंपोनेंट्स हैं।
Anup.
Yeah, similar to what Tushar said, basically the Indic values have been derived out of a lot of religious teachings as well, which includes like Dharma, Ahimsa, Karma, and Moksha, Artha. And then there's a huge focus on community, right? So this is where I feel like there has to be some common ground in terms of, you know, how community is sort of viewed. Right, even inside Hinduism, like how do you view that entire community from afar? You can view it as one big umbrella, or you can view it as tiny different people who have different kinds of religious aspects as well, right? Like who, even in terms of worship, how it is worshipped, the words that are said during these things, they all differ. So that's where we feel that there is actually a common ground between libertarianism and Indic values, because we are focusing on your individual's perspectives all the time, and your individual perspective as a whole now start forming different kinds of communities. So you as a center, let's say we are the central sort of government and we are trying to put rules. It's hard for us to put rules on, oh, this particular community behaves like this one behaves like this, that one behaves like this. How do you find a commonality of the rules? Like even now, because the CM Rekha Gupta, I think in Delhi, made some secular comments, right? Now everybody is upset. That's kind of because they are taking Hinduism under one umbrella, one big umbrella, when it probably isn't. I'm not saying it shouldn't be, but maybe it isn't, right? So who's to say this? So that's where libertarian principles really come into play, where we are saying, hey, it is not just the collective. It is your individual thoughts also that matter, because you could have something unique that is contributing to society, which will be lost under a bigger umbrella. So, you know, at the end of the day, libertarian is a very key sort of centric to enable these kind of Indic, you know, concepts to thrive. Like even Indic concepts, they basically artha. It is the pursuit of wealth. It is the pursuit of prosperity with a balanced and very ethical kind of view and conduct towards society. That is how that is being viewed, you know. And moksha is also liberation through self-realization. It is not the realization of an entire thing. It is your own personal. So how do you have somebody else tell you, you know, that is where we have a problem with saying that, hey, you cannot come here and just put everybody under one umbrella just because it is easier for you to apply laws. That's not the way it should work. So that's kind of where our perspective comes from.
Yes.
And additionally, जैसे कि हिंदुइज्म का डिसेंट्रलाइजेशन इतना ज्यादा है कि अपना कोई एक क्लेम नहीं कर सकता कि बॉडी की भाई हमने पूरे इंडिया के लिए रूल बना दिया है। कोई रिलीजियस बॉडी क्लेम नहीं कर सकता, क्योंकि हर किसी के कस्टम और ट्रेडिशंस अलग हैं। और लोग मतलब एक ही फैमिली में आप अलग अलग डिएटीज को वर्शिप कर रहे हो, तो और लोग ये नहीं कहते कि अपना नहीं तुम ऐसा क्यों कर रहे हो, क्योंकि रिलीजन इज अ पर्सनल मैटर। ये इंट्रिंसिक अंडरस्टैंडिंग है हिंदू में, हिंदू वैल्यूज में।
You take even the Christian sects, you know, there are multiple different sort of Christians, which everybody just says Christians. No, there are deep divides among Christian societies where, for example, there is Pentecostal. They don't wear anything flaunty, they won't wear gold. They have kind of disowned that. But then when you look at the Protestants, they'll be looking at the Pentecostals and they'll be like, hey, this has got nothing to do with God. God had gold stuff and all of that, so we can wear gold. So, like, how do you make laws and how do you connect? How do you say, oh, Christians are, a completely one umbrella? You cannot say. The best we can do is give them the choice, their community the choice to do the thing that is best for that community. They have been practicing these things for generations. It is not something new to them. It's ingrained in their DNA. So may as well let them take control of it, rather than a central government trying to establish rules for all these guys.
Yes, and thank you. So I will extend the argument a little bit more, actually, for the people because generally humans are actually, they think in binaries. You like me or you hate me. Okay. There is no middle ground in most human thinking, how the psychology actually works. Okay. So that if you don't like me, then you probably hate me. Okay. So that's how people actually behave. So in your discourse, correct? In your discourse, you primarily talk about economic policies, which are very important, correct? Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. So these are four fundamental aspects of who we are as human beings, okay, as our identity itself. As if I want to quote the famous movie Ex Machina, okay, where the protagonist would say that, can you imagine a consciousness without sexuality? That can you have a human being without a sexual orientation, whatever it may be? So it is part of who we are as human existence, as how do we live our lives. So in that context, you talk about specifically on the economic policies of it, and also as a individual right to exist and practice and be who they are. But then human success, the human evolution is humans banding together to live as one so that they can survive. So humans are living with each other in a small groups of 10, 15, 200. So theoretically and evolutionary, humans are living in a group of 200 people or more. Okay, that's why probably you cannot remember more than 200 people's name, because we never lived beyond 200 people in a single group. So after 200, you will forget everybody. You will not be able to remember. Your brain can't process it. So this community, the human community, which actually made sure we survive the savannas of Africa and Asia and became who we are today, how do you tell somebody that when we are talk about individualism, we are not against community as per se?
Individualism or communism, we are contradiction प्रॉब्लम्स तब आती है जब इनवॉलंटरी होती है कम्युनिटी मेंबरशिप. वॉलंटरी कम्युनिटी मेंबरशिप में कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है.
Yeah, I mean, like, for me, when I hear this argument, I always think that, even religion was formed out of some sort of individualization, right? Like, there is an individual God, or there is an individual priest, or there is an individual something. At the end of the day, what we are trying to say is you need more choices in your life. Right? So when it comes to when you awaken individuals and empower them to do certain things, you get more choice. So that is what we are trying to sort of put out there, saying that, hey, everybody has something unique. Why don't you kind of bring it out into the open? And that is kind of where the community also builds around. They build around good ideas. They build around good theories, good philosophies, and things like that. So you would have godmen like of different natures also having. There are cults like that as well of different communities. But at the end of the day, everybody is not having an equal platform. If you need to do something on your own, you should have like that self-belief that, and the backing of, or the non-backing or the non-interference of external entities to help you achieve that target, right? So that is what is lacking right now. With so many regulations around, it's hard for you to even start something as an individual. You would rather follow somebody. And what we are finding is people just get into distorted communities rather than simple aspect of why is like certain businesses only thriving in India, for example, IT business. Like, so now the distortion is that, hey, my son has to go to an IT computer science college, example. So now the distortion has already begun, where you will find this in a lot of families where, some people are sent against their will to do something, and then, whatever it is, they are either successful or they are not, whatever it is, it's not. But, at the end of the day, if that individual had a choice, would they do something different is the question. And if they did something different, would they be more successful at it because they thought of it, they wanted to do it, and were they going ahead with it is the whole thing. So individualism and collectivism are like almost the same thing. It's just that, why do we, like you said, only you'll remember only 200 people's name. Why do you need a collective of 1 million? So that is where libertarian policies like decentralization and all of that come in, where we are talking about, hey, if you want quicker turnarounds, and if you want quicker solutions to problems, your life is only 50, 60 years or 80 years. If you want your best solutions to live your life right now, it is better to have smaller systems of governance, smaller systems of economic activity, and all of that, where, you can grow faster.
Yeah. So what I was talking about, I'll give you an example. Okay. So if you can see the screen, you'll see the screenshot which CSK had posted. I think it is from some tweet and conversation where people are talking about having Hindu cafe says it all, what libertarianism in India is heading towards. That's the last comment. So that's what I was talking about, that a lot of people have a very vague or maybe misconceived perception of what LPI stands for and what libertarian actually is. So that's why I wanted to actually talk about this, because I think there are many people who would be in this category, who would think, okay, my freedom of speech means that I can abuse anybody and nobody should say anything to me. And for them, that represents libertarianism. But that cannot be correct. So
What
in
Gopi
that way,
Krishnan has said is like perfectly correct there, like you're no force, that's all. You can form any kind of community, there's nothing stopping anybody. See, there's nothing stopping anybody from anything in the libertarian system. So you could have a community of 100, 500, but it all depends on your merit now. Now it is your merit. There is no funding from external sources. There is no favoritism. There is no major like Tushar or whatever is not going to go stand there and say this is the greatest solution of all time. No. You decide that solution, because the central government now in a libertarian system has nothing to do with that. We just ask questions. Hey, are you expecting money from the central government? And then we'll have to wait on whether taxpayers have to pay for it, or whether it is going to harm anybody. That is the next thing. And, at the end of the day, you can continue with your process of creating your own assembly of Avengers, for lack of a better word. You can go ahead and create your own kind of a system. The freedom is totally yours. So at the end of the day, if you need somebody else to come there and put a label for you, package you in such a way with a specific community, you're kind of giving the power to somebody else to even drop you down when they don't need you. So why do you want to give anybody that power when you can hold it on your own? So that's kind of where libertarianism is empowering you, rather than sort of having somebody else decide what your community is.
Yeah, understood. Tushar, you are on mute, so you need to unmute yourself. Yeah. Okay. So I'd like to take your point at the first point. Anything that involves group thinking, isn't it against the libertarianism, individualism? This seems like a cult. So because I think this is important to actually discuss, because there is a lot of misunderstanding in terms of what you guys stand for. So this is something which we need to talk about. Actually, clear the air.
मतलब ये इम्प्रैक्टिकल सी बात हो रही है, मतलब कि किस तरीके से, मतलब कि क्या किसी भी ग्रुप में इन्वॉल्व नहीं हो, क्या आप केव में रहना जाके, मतलब कि नहीं, और अगर आपकी दो बंदों से एग्रीमेंट होगी तो क्या आप जानबूझ के कोई ऐसा स्टांस लोगे कि मैं उससे अलग हो सकूं? क्या बात करे जा रहे हैं यार, ये थ्योरी वाले बंदों में कोई इंटरेस्ट नहीं
Yes.
बात करने में। ये
Yeah,
ट्विटर
yeah, yeah.
वॉरियर,
So
कीबोर्ड वॉरियर्स खुश रहें और अपना इंडिविजुअलिज्म बनाए, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है। हमने अपनी स्टैंड क्लियर कर दिया कि आप यू आर हम इंडिविजुअलिज्म इजंट अगेंस्ट द कम्युनिटी, मगर बाउंड्री लाइन ये है कि भाई इंडिविजुअल विल नॉट बी सैक्रिफाइड फॉर द गुड ऑफ द कम्युनिटी। ये बाउंड्री लाइन है कि इट इज नॉट, ये मॉरल चीज नहीं है कि अगर इंडिविजुअल आउट ऑफ, अगर कि मतलब इंडिविजुअल को जबरदस्ती बलि चढ़ाया जा रहा है कम्युनिटी के लिए, अगर वो खुद से डिसाइड करता है कि लाइक हीरो सैक्रिफाइसेस हिमसेल्फ, वो बात अलग है। मगर उसको फोर्स किया जा रहा है कि नहीं तुम्हें ये करना पड़ेगा कम्युनिटी की भलाई, समाज की भलाई के लिए, क्योंकि ये जो लॉजिक है, इसी यही कम्युनिज्म या सोशलिज्म की शुरुआत यहीं से होती है कि इंडिविजुअल को सैक्रिफाइस करना चाहिए कम्युनिटी के लिए।
understood. So now I want to give you an example, maybe a kind of a counterpoint to this. If I take the society of Singapore, it's a very abnormal kind of thing, but still it exists. So let's talk about it. So Singapore is a kind of a how would I say semi-dictatorial, socialism-driven, but at the same time very capitalist society, where you actually cannot stand and do a protest. You will not get the thing. Okay. And so in that case, how do you think these and people actually quote, like people will actually quote China and Singapore, कि देखो they are the most better economic things, they provide so much better things to do, so why isn't that better than what you are promoting?
You're talking about in terms of the economic policy?
Economic as well as society. See, economic is one part of it. Economy will make sure that Singapore citizen has the best healthcare, best education, and in terms of also best life experience, no crime. So your economy is intrinsically linked to your quality of life as well. How do you live, and also your society. If the society is prosperous, there will be less crime in general. Okay.
Yes.
So you will have, if you have a prosperous society, you will have a better healthcare that will improve your life. How do you live a life? So both are linked. Go ahead.
So I mean, like I think Singapore, maybe whether they have been like a port for many years. So they have been doing free trade, like trade, because of their strategic location. They are like having centuries of experience in all this kind of trading via their ports, right? So they do have a lot of experience. So that comes with that. What they have stumbled upon, what Singapore has actually stumbled upon is that ability of providing that economic growth. So basically, not many people actually feel like standing on the street and protesting against their government for some reason, for a lot of issues, right? So that's kind of what they have stumbled upon, in the sense that as long as people are economically secure, they can go practice whatever it is that they want. And we will have a system. They do listen, they do listen. They have certain ways of listening to the people, but they don't like, that outright protest. So for example, starting off a business in Singapore. So some of my friends started in Singapore. Simple procedures, 1-2 small procedures. It takes 1.5 days on an average. Even according to World Bank reports in 2020, it takes 1.5 days on an average. No minimal capital requirement. You and me in our garage can actually start a business within 1.5 days on an average in Singapore, right? So that's simple. So which means that I can just walk into Singapore with a handbag and a dream, and I can make it happen. Where can that be actually done here? By the time you need some capital, you need compliance, you need to hire somebody to take care of accounting, everything. You need to figure out, first of all, on the myriad of different types of companies you need to run for regulations, right? So for us also, it falls straight into the libertarian policy, where it is a hands-off approach. We are also trying to push the same thing. Hey, don't put any, because your next Elon Musk from India could come from a garage. You are stopping him right now. You put full stop on that guy. The next thing is like a lot of the red tape. It's not there in Singapore, and they have a kind of a impact, like a minimalistic approach for FDIs as well, for startups as well. So they managed to attract, like, I think in 2022, they managed to attract about $140 billion, while I think 22, 23, we managed to attract only 83 billion. For a country of our size, for a what do you call that? For the talent that we possess, Singapore is like this. Why are we not attracting like 3 times that amount into India? So something's wrong, right? Like, we've got to also think like, why we've got more than them. We've got more natural resources than those guys. Those guys have to buy everything. So why aren't investors picking up their money bags and running to India? Why isn't India the forerunning destination right now? And now we find out that our compliance costs are over the right. When you compare something like from Singapore and this, like, we could annually increase our GDP by 1 or 2% if we adopt something as what Singapore is doing right now in terms of their taxation policies. It is basically simple taxation, flat corporate tax, 17%. I think it's about 18%, something like that. No capital gains tax, minimal personal income tax, like 22%, and they have tons of exceptions, and they are liberal with their exemptions, and no GST on exports as well for Singapore. So there is no comparison between the things that India is doing and the policies that Singapore is doing. So they are light years ahead of how they want to do their business. They want money to flow freely. For some reason we don't, which is ridiculous. Like this kind of money, just all you need to do is drop. See, getting 10% from everybody, from 200 people, is the same as getting 30% from just 30 people. Like it's kind of like that kind of a thing. Why would you want to do that? And we have the population to support lower taxation. Not many countries have the population to support lower taxation. Everybody give $100, no? And it will be fair, because even the guy who gave $100 now will feel like the road belongs to him as well, and he will try and take care of it. Right now, only 2% of the population is paying tax. Nobody else cares. So they are spitting on the roads. They are throwing paper on the roads. This is where the Indic values come in. Social responsibility. You're paid for it. Now, everybody should feel like you're paid for it. You're paid something for it. Not just the rich guy who is trying to go down the road who has paid for it. Pay that little bit of amount so that everybody feels a little secure and responsible for this. So, the Singapore GDP ratio is so high right now, right? So it's one of those things. Their policies are working for them. So the protests and all that are very secondary. In India, the protests are primary, while our economic actual reforms seem to be secondary.
Yes. So I have to point out 2-3 specific things. Okay. I have traveled to those destinations in person. First of all, what we do generally is that generalization of any policy is the worst thing you can ever do. Okay. As when I spoke to you guys as well, I mentioned that, okay, you take a very good idea, and if you're going to implement this in a desert, it's the worst thing you can do. You need a desert as well as the Amazon. The deserts of Sahara actually fertilize and help the Amazon to be who they are. So both have their place in the environment. It cannot be Amazon, the whole earth. It will not survive. The same way, when we talk about the best policies which the other countries have, and if you're going to implement this in the jungles of Chambal, it doesn't work. So it is about adaptation. It is also about actually seeing the feasibility and the long-term approach which needs to be there to make sure that you gradually reach there in terms of pragmatic approach. There is no ideal solution anywhere in this world. We learn this in engineering, that whatever solution you think is ideal, it can never be implemented. There is no black body. Okay. There is no perfect black body in this world. So on that note, we will actually finish this conversation about next 10-15 minutes, and then we will take questions. Okay. People should hear, because actually see, when the people are posting questions, okay, they are using their individual right to post questions. Okay. But you need to understand, people who are posting questions, you need to understand what the LPI stands for in terms of their philosophy. Because if you don't have a philosophy, if you don't have an ideology, you don't have a base, a foundation to build a building on. Okay. Just your questions answered by Tushar and Anup will not solve your questions. The ability of LPI to solve your or answer your question is based on, is their philosophy good enough to answer your question, and can they do it? Do they have a plan for it? Okay. So rhetoric is something which is very understandable and you like it, but go beyond the rhetoric. Yeah. So now I'll take one more thing, and then we'll go back to the questions which audience has. That is regarding economic policy is one very important aspect of a nation state. Okay. But how do you address the ideological functioning, ideology? And what do you think when you say an pro-Indic civilization organization? Okay. What do you think ideology? Say, I'll take example of Vijayanagar. Okay. Vijayanagar kings built temples. Okay. And they actually made sure that in their context, they were actually deriving legitimacy from the gods themselves by building temples. So they were a reincarnation of God himself, and they derived their power from there. So, and that is being the process across the globe, wherever people are there. Okay. Whether it is in Abrahamic religions, whether it is in Eastern religions, whether it is in Greek religions, every emperor has derived its power from the above, some god, and he would give them the power. Okay. So in terms of your principle, how this nation building ideology, because nations are not built on markets, nations are built on ideological foundations of who they are as an identity, as a civilization, as a kind of history of 1,000 years. So how do you think you are going to define, in case you have a chance to actually build the civilization identity of India again? तुषार
सर थोड़ा सा डिसएग्रीमेंट है मेरा कि हम कुछ ऐसा कर सकते हैं कि हम इंडिया की सिविलाइजेशन ग्राउंड से बिल्ड कर सके।
नहीं, इफ यू हैव द ऑप्शन, अगर आपके पास ऑप्शन हो तो आप क्या करोगे?
नहीं, हम उसी बारे में आने लगा था कि अब हम ये चीज एक्सरसाइज नहीं कर सकते क्योंकि ये टॉप डाउन अप्रोच है। मतलब इसमें एसेंशियली बात ये हो रही है कि जो मैंने डिसाइड किया है वो अब ऑल अक्रॉस इंडिया फॉलो होगा। ये नहीं हो सकता, मगर मैं ये जरूर कर सकता हूँ कि जो लोग इंटरेस्टेड हैं कल्चर बिल्ड करने में, उनके काम में गवर्नमेंट इंटरफेयर ना करे। जो लोग इंटरेस्टेड हैं कि हम अपनी सिविलाइजेशन को कंट्रीब्यूट करना चाहते हैं, हम अपने कल्चर को प्रमोट करना चाहते हैं, उनके बीच में, उनके पाथ में ऑब्स्टिकल क्रिएट ना हो। अभी क्या हो रखा है, अभी हमारी सो कॉल्ड सेक्युलर जो गवर्नमेंट है उसने एक कम्युनिटी के हाथ बांध रखे हैं जबरदस्ती, और जो कि क्लियर इंक्लिनेशन है उसकी कॉलोनियल लेगेसी है, उसी वजह से उसने जो उसके बाद फिर जो हमारे जो फर्स्ट पीएम आए थे वो उसी की कंटिन्यूएशन है। तो वो उनके बायसेस को रिफ्लेक्ट करता है कि ये पॉपुलेशन डिजर्व नहीं करती इंडिविजुअल फ्रीडम और लिबरल वैल्यूज बेसिकली डिजर्व नहीं करती है, तो वो बायसेस रिफ्लेक्ट होते हैं। और फिर प्रॉब्लम ये है कि कोई भी सेंट्रलाइजर आएगा उसकी वैल्यूज हमेशा कुछ ना, ये तो है कि कॉन्ट्रडिक्शन निकल के आएंगे, अलग अलग कल्चर में अलग अलग वैल्यूज हैं। अब उड़ीसा में अलग है, हिमाचल में अलग है, कश्मीर में अलग है, तमिलनाडु में अलग है। तो प्रॉब्लम ये रहेगी कि आप हर जगह कोई, जैसे मान लो सबसे सिंपल एग्जांपल ले, मान लो हिंदी का एग्जांपल ले, मान लो मेरी वैल्यू है कि भाई हिंदी बोलनी चाहिए सबको, और मैं पार्टी एलपी डिसाइड कर ली हम तो हिंदी प्रमोट करेंगे, मगर वो नहीं होने वाली फॉलो, इम्पॉसिबल टास्क है वो। मगर मैं ये जरूर इंश्योर कर सकता मगर हम ये जरूर इंश्योर कर सकते हैं कि जो प्रमोट करना चाहते हैं हिंदी को, दे आर फ्री टू प्रमोट, और जो अपनी रीजनल लैंग्वेज को प्रमोट करना चाहते हैं, दे आर फ्री टू प्रमोट। कल्चर वॉर्स कल्चर के स्फीयर में रहना चाहिए, पॉलिटिकल स्फीयर में एंटर नहीं करना चाहिए, क्योंकि पॉलिटिशियंस हैव मोनोपोली ओवर वायलेंस, और मोनोपोली ओवर वायलेंस का मतलब ये है कि एक बार हम इलेक्ट हुए तो दूसरे को हम उड़ाने की कोशिश करेंगे। जैसे यूपी में चलता है कि अपना बहुत ज्यादा एकदम से कल्चर वैल्यूज शिफ्ट हो जाती हैं जैसे ही गवर्नमेंट चेंज होती है। तो ये नहीं, इस तरीके से सिविलाइजेशन बिल्ड नहीं होती है। इसीलिए डिसेंट्रलाइजेशन नेशन बिल्डिंग के और सिविलाइजेशन बिल्डिंग के लिए, क्योंकि इंडिया का हमेशा हिस्टोरिकली, इंडिया और चाइना का जो हिस्टोरिकल कॉन्ट्रास्ट है वो ये है कि चाइना इज अ स्ट्रॉन्ग स्टेट, वीक कल्चर, इंडिया इज अ स्ट्रॉन्ग कल्चर, वीक स्टेट। तो हमें रिस्टोर करने की जरूरत है ये वाली चीज कि इंडिया तो स्ट्रॉन्ग कल्चर है कि लोग अपने डिस्प्यूट्स खुद ही सुलझा लेते थे, खुद ही अपना मतलब इनिशिएटिव लेते थे और अपना प्रॉब्लम्स, मतलब कि कल्चर में क्या आएगा, आर्ट, हिस्ट्री, लिटरेचर, रिचुअल्स की सारी चीजें वो खुद से करना शुरू करें दोबारा। अभी इंटरनेट पे थोड़ी सी चीजें हो रही हैं, इंटरनेट थोड़ा इस चीज को अनेबल कर रहा है क्योंकि इंटरनेट इज स्लिपिंग अंडर द नोज ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट। मगर फिर भी जो मेजर सबसे जो बड़ी बॉडी है, जो सबसे सेंट्रल बॉडी है जो कि इंश्योर कर सकती है कि वैल्यूज दोबारा से अच्छे से प्रोपोगेट होना शुरू हो, जो कि है टेम्पल्स, उनको फ्री करने की बहुत ज्यादा जरूरत है। क्योंकि टेम्पल्स का सिर्फ ये रोल नहीं था कि वहां पे पूजा करें हम जाके, टेम्पल्स एक कम्युनिटी सेंटर थे, टेम्पल्स बैंक्स थे, टेम्पल्स मतलब बहुत सारा रोल था, मतलब सेंटर ऑफ लाइफ आपका, सेंटर ऑफ द कम्युनिटी आपका टेम्पल होता था। तो हमें वो रिस्टोर करने की जरूरत है ताकि कम्युनिटी को पावर वापस मिल सके और गवर्नमेंट और कॉलोनियल बाबूस आपकी लाइफ में इंटरफेयर करना बंद करें।
Yeah,
It's like
Anup and
yeah, it's like the age-old question: who has more power, the government or God? You know, like where do you where do you actually say God is? If God is all powerful, then why is the government having so much power over you? Like it is one of those things that social harmony and individual rights, right? All these identity-based politics, they are used at specific times to create this disharmony. That's kind of how the socialists have been running for a long time. These people need to sort of start waking up and say, grabbing hold of their own individuality and then, understanding their community from their own perspective as opposed to from the government's perspective. Reconnecting, I would personally just reconnect with the roots of your religion and things like that, and bring in that harmony back in again. And like Tushar said, the temples were a big center. It was a center for everything, cultural influence and this, that. There were dances like every day and things like that. So they were celebrating their culture long before any of these governments even existed. That is why today there are so many books on it as well. It's not like the government just came and created this whole thing. They have only caused problem. They have not really created this. This has been created ancient times ago, and it has survived everything, even though they didn't have computers. How can it die now? Like we have to take this into our own hands and move forward with it, rather than allowing somebody else to control the narrative.
ये एक तरीके से रिस्टोरिंग द बैलेंस है, जो कि हिस्टोरिकल एनोमली रही है कि एक तो ब्रिटिश कॉलोनियल और उसके बाद फिर जो बाबूडम है, उन्होंने कंट्री को सेंट्रलाइज करने की कोशिश करी कल्चरली भी। तो ये हम रिस्टोरिंग द बैलेंस है कि कल्चरल मैटर्स खुद कम्युनिटी खुद ही सॉल्व करती थी, रूल ऑफ लॉ जहाँ पे बात होती वहां पे गवर्नमेंट की इन्वॉल्वमेंट होती थी। मगर ब्रिटिशर्स भी जब स्टार्टिंग में आए थे वो भी कल्चरल मैटर्स में इंटरफेयर नहीं करते थे लोगों के। वो उसके बाद 1857 के, और जब उन्होंने इंटरफियर किया तो फिर मतलब एक वो भी रीजन था कि मतलब इंडिया इतना ज्यादा स्ट्रिक्ट था कल्चरल मैटर्स को लेकर कि 1857 के रिवोल्ट एक मेजर रीजन वो भी था कि ब्रिटिश स्टार्टेड इंटरफेयरिंग इन द कल्चरल मैटर्स ऑफ द लोकल पॉपुलेस। तो अभी भी वो कंटिन्यूएशन चल रही है उसी चीज की, एक डिस्ट्रस्ट है कि लोगों को लेके कि नहीं ये तो बारबेरियंस है या इनका इस कल्चर उस टाइप का, कि इनको अगर खुली छूट देती तो ये तो पता नहीं क्या ही कर देंगे। तो हमारा इंडिया की सिविलाइजेशन बहुत ज्यादा सेंट्रली, क्योंकि ये अकेली सिविलाइजेशन है जिसका नॉन वायलेंट एक्सपेंशन रहा है साउथ ईस्ट एशिया में, और जहां पे भी इसका एक्सपेंशन हुआ है इसका नॉन वायलेंट एक्सपेंशन हुआ है, तो ट्रेड एक्सपेंशन हुआ है इसका। ये और इसकी हिस्ट्री बिल्कुल क्लियर है, किसी ने जाके वो नहीं किया कि एट द पॉइंट ऑफ द गन के भाई एक्सेप्ट और यू ऑल विल बी किल्ड, ऐसा कभी हुआ ही नहीं है। तो हमारे कोशिश अटेम्प्ट यही है कि जो इतने सारे जो हंड्रेड्स और थाउजेंड मिलियंस लोग हैं जो इंटरेस्टेड हैं अपना कल्चर को रिवाइव करने में और उसको नेक्स्ट लेवल पर ले जाने में, उनको हम एनेबल कर सकें, उनको एक फ्री प्लेटफॉर्म दे सकें, उनको वो दूसरी कंट्रीज में भी जाएं और मतलब लोकली तो है ही, मगर अभी जो फ्रीडम रोकी हुई है कि आपको इसके लिए भी परमिशन लेनी पड़ेगी, उसके लिए भी परमिशन लेनी पड़ेगी, मतलब कुछ भी बोलना तो परमिशन, तो वो खत्म करा जाए सिस्टम, ऐसे पहले नहीं होता था।
जी बिल्कुल। So let me actually give you a bit more clarity. What I understood from your philosophy, an individual's ability to exercise its own agency to actually express himself, and a community's requirement for safety, security, and continuity, दोनों का combination is libertarianism. What I understood. An individual can be part of the community, an individual may choose not to be part of the community, but both have the agency to express their own have their own agency in terms of power to actually express themselves.
Yes.
So this is something which is very important to actually understand that individualism, we as a civilization has been an individualist civilization for thousands of years. In a single family, I worship Bhagwan Ram, somebody worships Ganesha, my father may be an atheist, okay, my mother worships some other god. What does it reflect? It reflects that every individual cares for each other but respects each other's boundaries, that I'm not going to impose you worship this god. So we have been living this philosophy for thousands of years. So that is something which is not very unique to us. We have been living an embodiment of this for thousands of years. We need to rediscover it. Yeah, we have to learn it and understand in a different way, because we live in a 21st century, not 5,000 years ago. So the way we implement it, the way we exercise it, it will evolve with time, the way we see. So now I'll ask last question and I'll go back to audience questions. Okay. In terms of borders of a country, of a nation state, okay, that needs to be protected. Okay.
Yes.
Second thing would be that when it comes to the existential threat, whether it is from an aggressor state or an aggressor ideology or an aggressor community. Example, if I take, you have a people who are 30% of your population and they intend to destroy the state where they live in, okay, or some other country wants to destroy your civilization, okay, how your philosophy will actually respond to these kinds of internal and external threats? Anup.
Yeah, so once somebody comes into the country through legal means, you are,
No. I am not talking about legal means itself. See, when you internal threat can be anything.
The explanation from that point, from that point on. So that is the basis. That's the foundation, right? So we are mostly, kind of talking about immigration here, right? So how do we make our immigration much more smoother?
No. I am not talking about immigration. So I am talking about, let's say, any community will have a right to actually express themselves. If they express themselves in a way to actually destroy the land where they live in, how do you deal with them?
Okay.
नहीं. गवर्नमेंट की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है इंडिविजुअल राइट्स को प्रोटेक्ट करना. कोई कम्युनिटी ऐसे फोर्स नहीं कर सकती इंडिविजुअल लाइफ, लिबर्टी और प्रॉपर्टी को डिस्ट्रॉय करना. ये लिबर्टेरियनिज्म की फंडामेंटल गारंटी है. जहां तक उसकी बात है कि वैल्यूज की भी कौन किसकी वैल्यूज है, वो कल्चरल मार्केट में कंपटीशन की बात है, उसमें गवर्नमेंट कुछ नहीं कर सकती. कोई इंटरेस्टेड है उसको खुद ही कम्पीट करना पड़ेगा. जैसे शंकराचार्य जी ने डिसाइड किया कि आई विल फाइट फॉर द हिंदू कॉज, और उसके बाद उन्होंने पूरा अपना जो किया, तो वो इंडिविजुअल इनिशिएटिव था. वो किसी राजा ने डिसाइड नहीं किया कि आप जाइए और हर जगह प्रचार करिए. तो वो इंडिविजुअल इनिशिएटिव वाली बात है. मगर अगर कोई भी गवर्नमेंट की जो प्राइम रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है कि कोई भी मतलब कोई एक्सेप्शन नहीं हो सकती आपकी आपकी लाइफ लिबर्टी और प्रॉपर्टी राइट्स को कोई भी इंडिविजुअल आपको डिप्राइव कर सके उससे किसी भी कंटेक्स्ट में। रिलीजन इररिलेवेंट है उस चीज के लिए, आपका बेसिक रिलीजन जो मर्जी, क्योंकि बात ये है कि आपको इससे कंफ्यूज नहीं करना चाहिए कि अगर कोई रिलीजन मान लो स्लेवरी भी एक्सेप्ट करता है तो वो लिबर्टेरियन गवर्नमेंट में एग्जिस्ट नहीं कर सकता, क्योंकि हम इंडिविजुअल के फंडामेंटल राइट्स में बिलीव करते हैं। तो वहां पे खत्म हो जाती है आपकी, क्योंकि आप वहां पे आप इंडिविजुअल राइट्स के रेल में एंटर करेंगे, कल्चर हट गया वहां से।
Exactly. So now, so correct. As a larger community, we are building a first principle. That these are going to be first principles that we all agree upon. Now
Right.
let's come together and protect it
Yes.
at all costs. And what is good?
Individual protection of an individual's freedom and property is sacrosanct here. So it will be, if it comes to that, that is when we are like referees. In a football match, you conduct a foul, you actually lay a foul, we will come in and we will have to stop it. That is where, because a libertarian government is very stingy with taxpayers' money. It won't be spent on everything, but these are the kind of things where money will be spent to ensure that we can restore peace and order and stuff like that and all of that. But as opposed to they will come to the root cause of the problem, because with these investigations and things like that. So that root cause has to be looked at and has to be removed as soon as possible. The same thing goes for countries outside India as well.
Correct. So I think I am done with my thing.
मैं एक चीज और ऐड करना चाहूंगा कि जो गवर्नमेंट को इन्वॉल्व करने की कोशिश कर रहा है वो बेसिकली खुद की लैक ऑफ ऑर्गेनाइजेशन एबिलिटी और खुद की लैक ऑफ बिलीफ कि भाई मैं सही में दुनिया को चेंज कर सकता हूँ, इसलिए वो डेलीगेटिंग रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी टू सम पॉलिटिशियन और सम ब्यूरोक्रेट के ये देख लेगा, इनको मैं बस वोट डालूंगा और ये मेरे को ये डिलीवर कर देंगे। ये आप चीटिंग कर रहे हो अपने साथ भी और अपने कम्युनिटी मेंबर्स के साथ भी कि किसी एक पे रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी लगा देगी, ये देखेगा।
Got it. So now we will go for audience questions. There are a lot of questions. I am going to take questions which relates to a specific policy or topic rather than an individual issue, because individual issues will be multiple hundreds and thousands. Okay. And that will not solve our problems. Okay. So I cannot take every question. So I'll take around 10 questions from each, and then which will actually reflect the other questions as well. So it will not be something that, it will not be reflecting. This is the first one I'll take. This is from Vikhyat Verma. Personal laws have erased Hindu system like Maru Matek, I'm not able to pronounce it, and have imposed homogeneity. Muslims have liberty to do this. Remove personal laws and make system complex. UCC, or let it remain. I think you get the correct this is the question what he's asking for.
हिंदू कोड बिल जो बनाया गया था वो एसेंशियली नहीं, उसको अफवेयर करने की जरूरत है। कोई उनके जो हम रिकॉग्नाइज नहीं करते, उस गवर्नमेंट ने जो डिसाइड किया था कि हम अपनी मॉरल वैल्यूज इंपोज करेंगे पूरी एंटायर पॉपुलेशन पे, तो उसको रिफॉर्म करने की जरूरत है। हर कम्युनिटी के पास अपना राइट है उसको अपना सिविल कोड डिसाइड करने का। तो नहीं, इसकी बजाय कि यूसीसी की बजाय यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड, क्योंकि आपको ये अंडरस्टैंड करने की जरूरत है कि आप एक डेमोक्रेटिक सिस्टम में रह रहे हो और आपका वो जो रूलर है उसके बाद जितनी आप उसको पावर दोगे, आपको बस एक बार गलत होना कि एक बार तुक्का लग गया कि एक बार गलत बंदा सिस्टम में एंटर कर गया तो सब कुछ डिस्ट्रॉय कर सकता है। तो आप वो सिस्टम चाहोगे कि भाई एक बंदे के बायसेस और एक बंदे की अथॉरिटी की वजह से आप सभी का डैमेज हो गया। ये हो सकता है कि भाई हाँ, आपने अपना टाउन का मेयर इलेक्ट किया, वो थोड़ा अलग टाइप का निकला तो आपने उसको वोट आउट कर दिया, तो चलो आपके टाउन में थोड़ा डैमेज हो गया। मगर अगर आपने बिल्कुल एक सेंटर पे बिठा दिया बंदा जिसके पास एब्सोल्यूट पावर है और उसने ये डिसाइड कर दिया कि मैं ये चेंज ला रहा हूँ अक्रॉस द कंट्री, ये लॉ हो गया, तो सोच के देख रहे हो कि आपने वोटर की लॉटरी में छोड़ा हुआ है कि भाई उसको बस लोगों को कुछ बस 30-40% लोगों को कन्विंस करना है कि भाई मैं ये चीज करने जा रहा हूँ, तुम मेरे को सपोर्ट दो और फिर वो आपकी लाइफ के मेजर कल्चर, आपकी जो कल्चर है उसको पूरा उसका कोड चेंज कर सकता है। तो आप सही में ये सिस्टम चाहोगे कि आपका वोटर लॉटरी पे डिपेंडेंट है आपका कल्चर और आपका जो आप पूरे कोर बिलीव्स होल्ड करते हो उनको? तो
Yes. So
The word,
okay. So
the word
I
imposed, the word
hmm.
imposed will not be in our dictionary at all. There will be no imposition of any sort, really. So,
Understood. I will just play the devil's advocate here. Okay. So I am also in favor that like every community, if they want to have their own customs and culture and traditions, they should be able to have it. Okay. What if one community says, I am going to have 24 kids and you're going to allow it? How does, and that will, you know, that it will have a detrimental impact on overall community itself, country. How do you deal with that thing?
it is happening right now in Bihar.
Like
their population is way above everybody. A lot of other states' population right now, nobody knows how and why. So at the end of the day, like it is happening regardless right now is my point. So where is which government can stop that?
No, but
उसकी मैं बता दूं, इसमें एक जो मेजर प्रॉब्लम है वही जो वेलफेयर वाली प्रॉब्लम आ जाती है कि 24 किड्स को रेज करना कोई बच्चों का काम तो है नहीं। 24 किड्स इज अ ह्यूज टास्क। मगर अगर गवर्नमेंट आर्टिफिशियली सपोर्ट क्रिएट कर देते कि आप जितने मर्जी करते रहो, हम सबका खर्चा उठाते रहेंगे, तो वहां पे गवर्नमेंट ने प्रॉब्लम क्रिएट कर दी ना। 24 एक तो फ्री मार्केट में इंडिविजुअल को 24 किड्स रेज करने पड़ रहे हैं। एक उसको गवर्नमेंट ने उसको बॉटम सपोर्ट दे रखा है कि आप रेज कर जाओ, कोई नहीं, आपको सोशल सिक्योरिटी मिलती जाएगी। तो यही और जहां तक दूसरी बात है, तो दूसरी कम्युनिटी भी फ्री है, उसको कुछ लिमिटेशंस नहीं लगा रखी हैं कि भाई आप नहीं कर सकते। तो उनको किसी को मोबिलाइज करना पड़ेगा, किसी को इनिशिएटिव लेना पड़ेगा कि भाई वो अपनी कम्युनिटी में ये उसको मोटिवेट कर सके लोगों को ये चीज करने के लिए, क्योंकि दूसरों ने भी तो किया ही है, आप भी कर सकते हो। आपको फिगर आउट करना पड़ेगा कि हम किस तरीके से कर सकते हैं। तो ये गवर्नमेंट इसमें कुछ नहीं कर सकती कि गवर्नमेंट आगे डिसाइड करते कि नहीं तुम इतने ही बच्चे करोगे, क्योंकि कल ये गवर्नमेंट क्या रही है, दूसरी गवर्नमेंट आगे कह सकती है नहीं तुम्हें और ज्यादा करने पड़ेंगे। तो आप उसके भरोसे नहीं रह सकते कि गवर्नमेंट क्या डिसाइड कर रही है। आपको इंडिविजुअल लेवल, जैसे अभी काफी सारे इनिशिएटिव सुनने को मिल रहे हैं। राजस्थान में उन्होंने बिश्नोई कम्युनिटी ने शुरू किया है, 10,000 दे रहे हैं वो, या 1 लाख दे रहे हैं थर्ड चाइल्ड पे। तो इस टाइप के प्राइवेट इनिशिएटिव्स देखने पड़ेंगे कम्युनिटीज को कि हम किस तरीके से कर सकते हैं। और थोड़ा अनरिलेटेड सा टॉपिक है, मगर फर्टिलिटी रेट हर सारी स्टेट्स का डाउन ही आ गया और रिप्लेसमेंट रेट से नीचे आने ही वाले हैं जल्दी। तो हैविंग किड्स इज नेसेसरी, और गवर्नमेंट ने ही ये कंडीशंस क्रिएट करी हैं जिसकी वजह से कि नॉर्मल कि people are having less kids because they have made cost of living expensive and they have made मतलब कि हम बेसिकली कॉस्ट ऑफ लिविंग उन्होंने एक्सपेंसिव कर दिया है। तो किस वजह से? हाई टैक्सेस और हाई रेगुलेशंस की वजह से। स्कूल्स 4 फ्लोर के हैं और हाउसेस 10 फ्लोर्स के हैं, तो ऑटोमेटिकली डिमांड और सप्लाई का मिसमैच रहेगा और प्राइसेस ऊपर जाएंगे, स्कूल फीस ऊपर जाएगी। तो इस वजह से गवर्नमेंट ने ही प्रॉब्लम्स क्रिएट कर रखी हैं ये वाली। गवर्नमेंट ही ब्लेम जाती है। इंडिविजुअल अगर फ्री होते हैं, आप अपना पैसा पूल कर पाते हैं, मतलब आपको कोई इस टाइप का प्रोजेक्ट करना भी है तो उसको फंड करने के लिए आपके पास फंड करने के लिए आपके पास पूल होता है। मगर अभी तो गवर्नमेंट ही ले जाती है। आप तो ऑनेस्टली पैसा कमाते हो, गवर्नमेंट को पकड़ा देते हो और गवर्नमेंट उठा के उनको किसी को कम्युनिटी को अपीज करने के लिए, लो जी आप भी ले लो, आप फ्री यात्रा ये कर लो, आप फ्री ये कर लो, आप फ्री वो कर लो। तो गवर्नमेंट कर रही है ये प्रॉब्लम क्रिएट, उसकी बजाय ना कम्युनिटी की बजाय, क्योंकि कम्युनिटी वैल्यूज तो वो है कि जो कम्युनिटी लीडर डिसाइड करता है, मगर पॉलिटिकल वैल्यूज वो है जो वोटर डिसाइड करता है।
See, there are communities like this that exist in the world also. The Mormon community, Pennsylvania Dutch and places like that and all of that. They do have people having multiple wives, 50 kids and all of that, which is documented. But at the end of the day, they do live. That is their way of living and that is their lifestyle and they are carrying.
इस पॉइंट में तो मैं मिस ही कर गया कि हिंदू कोड बिल में ही तो लाया गया था कि मोनोगमी हो सकती है।
Yeah. So
see, monogamy was practiced in India at the individual level. Only the kings who could afford 10, 15 wives would do it. So monogamy was not something which was actually like unique to India कि वो हिंदू कोड बिल से आया है. भाई नॉर्मल जो इंसान था and because so ऐसा नहीं था कि every Hindu in pre-ancient India was marrying 10 people 10 wives. वो तो ऐसा था नहीं ना. It was not there, correct? The kings would have it because they could afford it. Simple thing.
yes.
Okay. So that is not something invention of Hindu code bill. I'm just saying.
If someone is having 24 kids, but they are not incentivized by a central party to have those kids, then we are not going to really get involved in that. I don't think we will, because see, at the end of the day, it is your own free will and volition. You are saying you have the funds to take care of those kids. Don't ask the state for money just because you have 10 kids. Don't ask the community to pay for your kids. No. Don't ask for free education for your second, third, or fourth child. Don't ask for all of that. You're not going to get any of that. So that's where we stand. If you want to have 24 kids, go ahead and have. See, because we cannot police everybody's individual thoughts and what they want to achieve in their lives at that point in time. What we ask for is, do you need our money? If you need our money, no, it's not going to happen.
Okay, understood. So, so what I understood in terms of understanding sociology and understanding human behavior and psychology is that your policies are based on the rational thinking of a human mind. When I know, probably people know that human mind is as irrational as rational when it wants to be. Like we are very irrational while buying a cell phone. We want to buy it at a lesser cost, and we are very irrational to sell the phone at the same cost which I bought. So human mind and human psychology and human behavior is a mix of rational and irrational thinking. The hypocrisy, if I say, okay, is built within us as an individual. So are you expecting an individual to be always honest with himself for what he wants to do?
नहीं, मेरे थोड़ा डिसएग्रीमेंट है. नहीं, हमारी आइडियोलॉजी इस बात पे कि ह्यूमंस आर फंडामेंटली इरैशनल, और इरैशनल है इसी वजह से आप एक सिस्टम, किसी भी ह्यूमन को इतनी पावर नहीं दे सके कि वो सिस्टम वाइड रिस्क क्रिएट कर सके. हमारे इसी वजह से हम सेंट्रलाइजेशन के अगेंस्ट है कि किसी कोई एक अथॉरिटी, क्योंकि वो ह्यूमन बीइंग इरैशनल है, उसके कुछ बायसेस है, उसके कुछ फ्लॉज है, मगर अगर आप उसको इमेंस पावर दे देते हो तो उतने ही मैग्नीफाई हो जाते हैं उसके जो फ्लॉज और उसके जो बायसेस हैं. तो इसी वजह से इम्पोर्टेंट ये है कि ह्यूमन बीइंग्स आर इरैशनल, दे हैव लिमिटेड नॉलेज, नो वन इज परफेक्ट. क्योंकि ह्यूमन बीइंग्स अगर रैशनल होते तो सोशलिज्म और कम्युनिज्म चल जाता है, क्योंकि वो खुद को लॉजिकली कन्विंस कर लेते हैं कि हाँ ये सिस्टम चल सकता है. वो ही सोशलिस्ट इग्नोर करते हैं कि ह्यूमंस इमोशनल नहीं है, कि ह्यूमंस सोशल नहीं है. हम इग्नोर नहीं करते इस चीज को, हम तो मानते हैं कि ये चीज है. इसी वजह से इम्पोर्टेंट है कि गवर्नमेंट जो कि एक इंस्टीट्यूशन है जिसके पास मोनोपोली ऑन वायलेंस है, उसकी स्कोप ऑफ पावर बहुत लिमिटेड हो, और कुछ तो इस एक्सट्रीम तक जाते हैं कि उसके पास मोनोपोली ऑन पावर हो ही ना. मतलब हम नहीं कह रहे कि पार्टी पोजीशन ये है, मगर कुछ का बिलीफ ये भी है, क्योंकि आप एक सिस्टम को इस तरीके से बिल्ड करना चाहते हो कि वर्स्ट पर्सन भी अगर उसमें एंटर कर जाए, मान लो हिटलर टाइप साइकोपैथिक बंदा भी उसमें एंटर कर जाए, तो भी वो पूरी सोसाइटी या पूरी सिविलाइजेशन को डैमेज ना कर सके.
Yeah, so rationality and irrationality are like is it echoing? Sorry. Yeah.
It was. Speak.
Hello.
I think there's an echo.
Okay. I think it's gone now.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so rationality and being irrational, again, who defines these rules of who's rational and who's irrational? Now you have somebody like Elon Musk also, who's like having this big business, but still he has entered into politics. Why would he put his business on the line? Why do he put his $400 billion business on the line? At the end of the day, humans believe in something, whether the outside world considers it rational or not, it is happening. And the human has the tendency to deal with it in the way that they appropriately seem fit. For example, why in a study of the bribes paid to public services, by a CMS India corporation that was done sometime in 21-22. 46% of the homes have paid bribes. Now, who is the irrational person here? Is it the one who paid? Is it the 46% of the people who paid the bribe, or is it the people who asked for that particular bribe? Right. So that rationality and irrationality, at the end of the day, it's like the chicken or the egg scenario. At the end of the day, a bribe was asked. Otherwise, you won't have power in your house tonight. You had no choice. You paid for it. This guy has the power to ask for it, so he asked for it. So, at the end of the day, what he's also asking is address market failures. Market failures, it is based on the simple concept of supply and demand, like Tushar was explaining. When there is a 10-storied house and a 3-storied school, where is the parity in that? Why aren't there 10 more schools just like that, or bigger schools like that, to accommodate for the supply and demand that is happening? And the simple answer to that is regulations. So we deregulate as and when as possible. You would have heard the things that Singapore was doing, right? Simple regulations, no export GST, so you can bring in as many goods as you want. You can sell in as many goods as you want at a good price, so that other customers can buy it. Your business booms. So there is nothing called rational or irrational markets. It is just about, do people find it a good business initiative to invest in that market or not? And the biggest thing that they are weighing is the risk. So in India, the biggest problem is the risk. When will these regulations change? What will these regulations change on? Who will be taxed next? How much will be that tax? These are the things that are stopping people from getting a rather decent market that can have a strong foundation to function over. Our markets are going to continuously suffer if we don't address this issue of these hundreds of regulations that keep happening, keep getting added, keep getting tweaked. It's hard for anybody to do business.
और मार्केट फेलियर्स एक मिथ है, ऐसा कुछ नहीं होता जहां तक उसकी। और ये जो ग्रेट डिप्रेशन का कोट करते हैं कि अगर गवर्नमेंट ने इंटरवीन नहीं किया होता तो अगर ग्रेट डिप्रेशन कैसे कभी बाहर नहीं निकलता, ये एक मिथ है। ग्रेट डिप्रेशन इनफैक्ट गवर्नमेंट ने ही क्रिएट किया था और ये वेल डॉक्यूमेंटेड है। ग्रेट डिप्रेशन एक सीरीज ऑफ बैंक फेलियर्स था जो कि उसके बाद फेडरल रिजर्व के आने के बाद शुरू हुआ था। प्रॉब्लम पहले क्या होता था, मतलब कि फेडरल रिजर्व के आने से पहले, पहली बात तो पॉलिटिशियन, उससे पहले से ग्रेट डिप्रेशन आने से पहले ट्रेड वॉर शुरू हुआ था। और ट्रेड वॉर शुरू होने से पहले पॉलिटिशियंस ने आर्टिफिशियली डिसाइड किया था कि हम जो उस टाइम पाउंड स्टर्लिंग रिजर्व करेंसी होती थी, तो पाउंड स्टर्लिंग का जो वो है, पाउंड स्टर्लिंग का प्री वॉर रेट था, हम उस पर शिफ्ट कर रहे हैं वापस। उन्होंने अकाउंट ही नहीं किया वॉर की इन्फ्लेशन को। उसके बाद फिर ट्रेड वॉर शुरू हो गया। ट्रेड वॉर शुरू हुआ, उसके बाद फिर अपना मतलब कि स्टॉक मार्केट हिट आया। और उसके बाद फिर क्या हुआ, बैंक पैनिक स्टार्ट हुआ। पहले का सिस्टम होता था कि जब पैनिक शुरू होता था तो बैंक से ट्रिक्स यूज करते थे कि पैसे नोट धीरे गिनना शुरू कर देंगे या फिर बैंक्स क्लोज कर देंगे जब तक पब्लिक सेंटिमेंट डाउन नहीं आ जाता। मतलब कि थोड़ा फियर, क्योंकि फियर कंटेजियस होता है। अगर आपने स्टॉक मार्केट में नोटिस किया होगा, मार्केट अगर गिरना शुरू होती है तो बहुत ही ज्यादा गिरना शुरू हो जाती है, क्योंकि फियर ज्यादा कंटेजियस होता है उसके मुकाबले, करेज के मुकाबले। तो इसी वजह से लोग पैनिक में एकदम से विड्रॉल करना शुरू कर देते हैं और स्पाइरल आउट होना शुरू हो जाता है। मगर फेडरल रिजर्व ने क्या किया कि मैंडेट कर दिया कि आपको डिपॉजिट्स मैंडेट कर दिया कि आपको इतने डिपॉजिट्स मैंडेटरीली लोगों को देने ही पड़ेंगे। तो उस वजह से क्या हुआ, बैंक्स फेल होना शुरू हो गए। और फिर बैंक एक बहुत ज्यादा सेंट्रल फाइनेंशियल इंस्टीट्यूशन है और उसका स्पाइरल इफेक्ट इतना ज्यादा होता है कि ग्रेट डिप्रेशन की स्टार्टिंग में जो बैंक्स थे उसके मेरे ख्याल से फर्स्ट साइकिल में सिर्फ 60% ऑफ द बैंक्स रह गए थे और शायद सेकंड और थर्ड साइकिल तक आते आते सिर्फ 30% ऑफ द बैंक्स बचे थे। तो ये ग्रेट डिप्रेशन जो कि मार्केट फेलियर को जिसको ब्लेम किया जाता है वो बिल्कुल एब्सोल्युटली रॉन्ग है, क्योंकि जब ये पैनिक स्टार्ट हुआ था उस टाइम अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट रेट पीक्ड एट 9%। उसके बाद 6 मंथ्स बाद गवर्नमेंट ने कुछ नहीं किया, 6 मंथ्स बाद वो 6% पे आ गई थी। और अगर चीजें नेचुरली चलती रहती तो फिर वो और नीचे, मतलब कि जो नॉर्मल अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट रेट होता है 3-4-5% जो भी होता है उस पे वापस आ जाती। गवर्नमेंट ने क्रिएट किया था।
Hey
जो मार्केट
Shastri,
फेलियर
I can see your comment at 10:4. There is no investor will believe you if you tell them there is no market failure and it is a myth. Really, that is
तो
not what we said.
कीन्स इन इकोनॉमिक्स में जो पढ़े वो ना बिलीव करें, क्या फर्क पड़ता है? कीन्स इन इकोनॉमिक्स वाले तो उसमें भी नहीं बिलीव करते.
That is not at all what we said.
The success of Argentina right now is a slap on the face of Keynesians. उनको पता चल रहा है कि कैसे, मतलब कि बिना गवर्नमेंट स्पेंडिंग इंक्रीज के इकोनॉमी कैसे ग्रो कर रही है 5% से, और प्रोजेक्टेड टू ग्रो मोर एंड मोर, और गवर्नमेंट कट कर रही है स्पेंडिंग, उसकी जगह इंक्रीज करनी है, गवर्नमेंट स्पेंडिंग कट हो रही है. ऐसा कैसे हो रहा है कि रेगुलेशंस हट रही है और इकोनॉमी ग्रो कर रही है? तो Keynesian economics और उसमें जो भी ट्रेंड है, दे आर सिंपली यूजलेस एंड दे आर, बल्कि मैं तो कहूंगा उनके पास नेगेटिव नॉलेज है, जो नॉलेज जो आपकी एग्जिस्टिंग नॉलेज को भी डिस्ट्रॉय कर देती है, उनके पास वो नॉलेज है जो कीन्सियन इकोनॉमिस्ट है और जो मार्क्सिस्ट है. तो जो भी मार्केट फेलियर में बिलीव करता है, रीड बेसिक इकोनॉमिक्स, ऑल योर कॉन्सेप्ट्स विल बी क्लियर. और जो बैंकर्स ने ही 2008 का क्राइसिस क्रिएट किया, मतलब पॉलिटिशियन ने किया था, मगर बैंकर्स का भी इक्वली रोल था. नहीं, बैंकर्स कोई फाइनेंस में अथॉरिटी नहीं है.
Okay, comments, let it go. So I am going to ask a very important question, which actually raised by Shastri. Not this question specifically, but I'll add one aspect of it. Education, healthcare, and few other things. Okay, primarily education and healthcare. Okay, and also safety. Okay. So these are fundamental aspects of our human existence. Okay, if your parents need healthcare, okay, you will not see that, okay, how much money have in your bank, and based on that you will go to a doctor. You want the best healthcare for your parents. Now, and what Shastri mentioned is the same thing would happen, because humans are irrational. Okay, so they will see that individual as a customer and how I fleece him. He will not see as a distressed son who is trying to help his parents. So, in your opinion, do you think as a community we can have first principles, that safety, healthcare, education, which will be a kind of first principles where people would be actually helping each other, not state, but communities would actually helping each other, that tell the state, you do this for us, so that even a poor person can have a better education and a rich person can have a same level of education.
तो ये थोड़ा ना मतलब उसकी बात है कि भाई अपना की हेल्थ, दूसरों की हेल्प करनी चाहिए इन एस्पेक्ट्स में. नहीं, हाँ बिल्कुल सही, बिल्कुल करनी चाहिए, मगर प्रॉब्लम गवर्नमेंट सिस्टम में ये आ जाती है कि आप सिर्फ, मेरे ख्याल से सिर्फ एक ही कंट्री है जो रीजनेबली डूइंग वेल इन हेल्थ केयर है, वो है सिंगापुर. और सिंगापुर का भी फुली प्राइवेटाइज मॉडल नहीं है, मिक्स मॉडल ही है उनका. पहली बात तो उन्होंने सेविंग्स कंपलसरी कर रखी है, और दूसरी चीज ये उन्होंने उनका भी टियर वाला सिस्टम है. जैसे हमारे तो सोशलिज्म ये कभी सबके लिए फ्री कर दिया, उनके लिए है कि वो दे स्टार्ट विद के अपना कि सबसे बॉटम टियर होता है कि गवर्नमेंट विल पे दिस मच, इंडिविजुअल हैज टू पे दिस परसेंटेज. फिर धीरे धीरे जैसे सर्विस क्वालिटी इंप्रूव होती जाती है, वैसे वैसे मतलब इवेंचुअली यू विल हैव अ प्राइवेट रूम, एक्सेलेंट क्वालिटी सर्विस, और उसके लिए फुली आपको पे करना पड़ता है. तो सिंगापुर ने ये सिस्टम अडॉप्ट किया है, मगर हमारे वाले थोड़े फ्री में ज्यादा इंटरेस्टेड है, और जो सोशलिस्ट है वो भी फ्री में ज्यादा इंटरेस्टेड है, इससे डिस्क्रिमिनेट ना किया जाए, जो तो वो सिस्टम ऑटोमेटिकली फ्लॉप हो जाता है, क्योंकि अब्यूजर्स. और एक कंट्री है जो कर पाई है इसको, मतलब कि वेलफेयर, क्या कहेंगे, सोशल वेलफेयर प्रोग्राम जो भी देंगे इनको, जो कि रीजनेबली गुड कर पाई है, उसका नाम है जापान. मगर जापान एक एक्सेप्शनल सोसाइटी है, क्योंकि वो बहुत ही ज्यादा होमोजेनस और वेल ऑर्गेनाइज्ड कल्चर है. तो जापान, और मगर हमारा उस टाइप का कल्चर है नहीं, क्योंकि हमारा काफी इंडिविजुअलिस्टिक और मल्टीकल्चरल सोसाइटी है हमारी. तो वन सेंट्रलाइज्ड अथॉरिटी.
I'll interject. Do you know why Japan is so community driven? जापान में जो कम्युनिटी ड्रिवन जो चीजें हैं कि लाइक एवरी इंडिविजुअल वो अपने एल्डर्स की बात सुनता है, दे हैव टू लिसन टू इट एज ए कम्युनिटी प्रैक्टिस. हमारे कुछ होते हैं जैसे कि मैं राम राम बोलूंगा, राम राम इज ए कम्युनिटी प्रैक्टिस. ओके, इट्स अ कल्चरल प्रैक्टिस रादर देन कि भाई वो कौन क्या बोल रहा है. So there will be some community traits which I will bring in. So Japan has a community driven society. वहां पर individualism तो बिल्कुल ही नहीं है. You cannot have it actually. You have to leave society to be there. Why it is like this?
मेरे को मैं पता नहीं अब आपकी अंडरस्टैंडिंग है, मगर मेरी जहां तक अंडरस्टैंडिंग ये है कि उनका मतलब कि जापान की सोसाइटी इस हिसाब से स्ट्रक्चर्ड थी कि दे हैव अ गॉड एम्परर, और उसके बाद फिर सोसाइटी उसके मतलब नीचे जाना शुरू कर देते, फिर उसके बाद फिर वो आगे सैमुराइज आ गए, उसके बाद फिर नीचे वो आ गए, और धीरे धीरे मतलब प्रीस्ट आ गए उसमें, तो काफी ज्यादा ऑर्गेनाइज हिस्टोरिकली, और कुछ हद तक कन्फ्यूशियन इन्फ्लुएंसेस का भी रोल है इसमें, और कुछ हद तक अपना जो उनका शिंटो रिलीजन है, जिसका बिलीफ इन ट्रेडिशंस और रेवरेंस टू एल्डर्स और रेवरेंस टू एंसेस्टर्स है, वो वाली चीज उस एस्पेक्ट का भी रोल है.
Another thing is like when we are when people are framing these questions on education right now, right, they only have one type of system in mind when they are thinking about education, right? So the first thing is, when the libertarians come in, we are going to implement something called school choice, right? So okay, so you don't want to be in a school from 1 to 8 hours a day and doing this and doing that and slaving and things like that. You will have a choice, because now people are going to start thinking, hey, how can I maximize and utilize my life so I spend time with my family, my dog, and also I learn something and learn something else. So maybe these education systems will not cost as much as whatever you see in current education system, where you need this classroom like this with the AC, with that, with this. Maybe the education systems will change, and people will have a choice on what to educate. So this will affect not only the rich but the poor. For example, if this is implemented even to a certain extent even now, not the education choice, but the fact that, you know, when in my child's school, when I pay the school fees, I also cover the school fees of children who are who don't have the privilege but want to go through this type of education system.
You're talking about RTE? You're talking about RTE?
Yeah, I'm talking about the Waldorf type education, like an alternative school type education. Even now, with all these regulations in place, there are still schools that are offering people the choice of doing that.
No, so, under RTE, yeah, so or after RTE?
No, right to education को जाना पड़ेगा, वो nonsense.
Yeah, I think Anup Rose.
Yeah, if you can. That. RT means?
Oh, no, RTE is the UPA law brought by UPA 2, I think UPA 1 or UPA 2, to actually mandate every private school to have, I think, 15% of their 10% or whatever the number of students free or whatever at minimum cost.
Yeah, whether they mandate or not, this will happen in certain types of schools that think a certain way. Because when you look at the Waldorf culture of the schools, for example, I know this culture of the school. This is like part of the education system of the Waldorfian founder itself. It is that these schools will offer these to community development, will offer these so that rich kids can not only people of different classes can mingle together, and that is where real education happens. So this was not formed by any government. So these rules were already made by the educational system. So now when the libertarian system comes in, you will find tons of education like this. Like I was explaining in another podcast, there may be schools that will teach you 12 languages, but only spoken English, spoken languages, only spoken Hindi, spoken this, which is easier to learn. So you might choose that education option than another education option. The other thing is we deregulate the school establishment completely. Right now, if you need to start a school, you need 3 acres of land, you need that, you need to show this, you need to show like a lot of these different things come. You have a trust here, you have this there, the trust gain, different kinds of, things. Like deregulate the system. Let anybody who's actually having, the knowledge and the will to run an institution and let them just run it. Why stop it? So you will find probably instead of just 2 schools in your area who are saying that this is exactly what you need to study, you'll find multiple schools cropping up, teaching various different kind of things with various life skills that are being taught along with the general life skills. So it's basically technology also. It's a tech problem in a way as well. Like Tushar often mentions that education is kind of free these days. I mean, you go to YouTube, you can get yourself a decent education. So there is really no excuse for anybody in India not to be educated as well.
एक एस्पेक्ट और मैं हाईलाइट करना चाहूंगा कि we don't claim to have all the answers कि भाई हमारे पास सारे आंसर्स हैं. हाँ, हमारे मतलब लूजली डायरेक्शन है, मगर we don't claim to have all the answers. That's why it is essential कि we give the opportunity to everyone to experiment. जैसे सिंगापुर का एक्सपेरिमेंट है, हो सकता है कि कोई सिटी उसको रेप्लिकेट कर पाए इंडिया में, हो सकता है कि कोई सिटी रेप्लिकेट ना कर पाए, उसके लिए कोई और डिफरेंट मॉडल काम करे. मगर अभी तो सिटी के पास सिटी के पास अथॉरिटी ही नहीं है कि वो एक्सपेरिमेंट कर सके इस चीज में, लोग आइडिया सजेस्ट कर सके, फीडबैक ले सके, मतलब अभी तो वो सिस्टम काम ही नहीं कर रहा. तो हमारा आइडिया ये है कि लेट पीपल एक्सपेरिमेंट. हमारे प्रिंसिपल्स तो कहते हैं कि भाई अपना नहीं होना चाहिए, मगर हो सकता है हमारे में भी फ्लॉ निकले, मगर हम ये इसमें हमारा जरूर बिलीफ है कि भाई थ्रू आइटरेशंस पीपल विल फिगर आउट व्हाट वर्क्स आउट द बेस्ट फॉर देयर एरिया, और उनको वो अथॉरिटी देने की जरूरत है कि you are free to experiment and see what works for you and free to discard what doesn't work for you. कोई दूर से आके डिसाइड, कोई दिल्ली में बैठ के डिसाइड नहीं करेगा कि आपके बिहार की विलेज में क्या एजुकेशन या फिर वो पॉलिसी फॉलो होनी चाहिए, हेल्थ केयर पॉलिसी फॉलो होनी चाहिए. तो हमारा आइडिया ये है कि भाई लेट देयर पीपल डिसाइड, दे हैव स्मार्ट पीपल, उनको डिसाइड, बिहार का रेपुटेशन है कि स्मार्ट पीपल वाली, तो लेट देम डिसाइड व्हाट इज गुड फॉर देम, or let them solve the problems at their scale rather than joining the bureaucracy, going to Delhi, this is what needs to be done in Bihar, or lose contact with the reality. Let people solve the problems on their own.
Good. So I'm going to take few more questions, maybe maximum 5. Okay, and then we'll end the day. This is very important question. Vikrant Verma has asking, any planned reforms on biased alimony laws, Modesty of Women Act, plans for making stricter punishment on dowry case? In a way, because these are social issues actually in general, not an individual.
It's happening right now, which is
gone. Yeah. National Council
like
for
you
Women
look at
National Council for Women will be disbanded. वो बॉडी लॉबिंग से क्रिएट करी गई है और कोई कम्युनिटेरियन आइडेंटिटी को रिकॉग्नाइज नहीं किया जाएगा गवर्नमेंट के द्वारा, तो वो जाएगी. और ये सारे लॉज जो बायस्ड लॉज हैं वो भी जाएंगे. इंडिविजुअल विल बी ट्रीटेड ऑन हिज मेरिट regardless of his gender or any other culture or any other group identity he belongs to.
Yeah, and look at some of the judgment comments based on the judgments that these judges also are giving. Based on what bias, based on what whims and fancies are these things happening? This is because the courts have no competition. Another thing that the Libertarian Party will do is he'll privatize the courts also. If this guy is talking like a fool, go to another court. Like here, you are stuck, you're dead, you're done. That's the only option could be what people are going through right now is to, cease to exist. That's but it shouldn't be that way. You should have a choice, even in the way, the judiciary operates.
Okay, so I have a very interesting question from Nina. So, why TFR is so low in the most prosperous countries where people want to go and live?
कोई उसी की बात होने लगी थी कि वो इकोनॉमिकली फ्री है मगर कल्चरली फ्री नहीं है. तो जैसे उसकी बात करें, TFR की बात करें, एक कुछ सोसाइटी सक्सेसफुल हुई है जिसमें सबसे प्रोमिनेंट मंगोलिया है. तो हर किसी की अपनी थ्योरी है.
Mongolia is still poor. Mongolia is still poor, very poor. It is not economically a prosperous society, Mongolia.
मगर उसका मंगोलिया का TFR एक पॉइंट पे 1.6 के आसपास चला गया था और अब वो 2 के आसपास चला गया था, अब वो वापस 3 पे आ गया. तो उसकी स्टडी हुई थी.
But you cannot compare Mongolia to Dubai. So we are talking about specific case of prosperous countries. Like, see, there is a psychology and a evolutionary. If you have enough resource, you will have more children. That's how.
नहीं, वो उस तरीके से काम नहीं करता. मैं उसके मैकेनिज्म को एक्सप्लेन करने लगा था कि इसका रिच और पुअर से रिलेशन नहीं है इसका, क्योंकि अगर आप उसको देखो, ग्राफ को देखो, तो सबसे अगर आप इस तरीके से मिडिल क्लास, इसमें लोअर क्लास, मिडिल क्लास और अपर क्लास का अगर ग्राफ ड्रॉ करते हो तो फर्टिलिटी रेट का ग्राफ यूं है कि मिडिल क्लास हैव द लीस्ट किड्स, हाई क्लास है वो upper class have more kids and lower class have more kids. तो लोअर इकोनॉमिक रीजनिंग दी जाती है, वो ये दी जाती है कि फॉर लोअर क्लास मोर किड्स मीन मोर लेबर, और हायर क्लास अपर क्लास फॉर देम दे कैन अफोर्ड इट सो दे हैव इट. जहाँ मिडिल क्लास की बात आती है तो मिडिल क्लास दे गेट worst of the both worlds because they don't participate in labor and they have to bear the high cost of raising kids. तो ये एक sort of explanation दी जाती है, मगर एक मेरा तो जिस थ्योरी में बिलीव है वो है मिमेसिस में, कि people are having less kids because other people are having less kids. मैं जिस जनरेशन में बिलोंग करता हूँ उसमें everyone used to usually have 2 kids, और अब जो जनरेशन आ रही है they usually have 1 kid, तो उसकी वजह से TFR 1 से नीचे जाता जा रहा है. तो मंगोलिया पे मैं एग्जांपल दे रहा था कि मंगोलिया ने ऐसा क्या किया कि दे रिवर्स देयर फर्टिलिटी रेट. तो उसका उन्होंने सिंपल से मदरहुड को सेलिब्रेट करना शुरू किया. अगर सिंपलेस्ट टर्म में बताऊं तो मदरहुड को सेलिब्रेट करना शुरू किया, और जैसे उनका जो रिपब्लिक डे टाइप ऑफ इवेंट होता था उसमें मदर्स वर रिवॉर्डेड के यू आर मेकिंग ग्रेट कंट्रीब्यूशंस टू सोसाइटी, और इस तरीके से मतलब उनको बैचेस या स्टेटस, मतलब मदरहुड वाज एसोसिएटेड विद स्टेटस. Whenever motherhood has been associated with high status, fertility rate has been high. Whenever motherhood has been associated with low status, then fertility rate has been low. तो इसका मिमेटिक आंसर है, इकोनॉमिक आंसर ही हो जाएगी, क्योंकि इकोनॉमी वही जो इस वाली बात है कि रिच कंट्रीज में फर्टिलिटी रेट कम है और पुअर कंट्रीज में तो उसकी फर्टिलिटी रेट ज्यादा है, क्योंकि फर्टिलिटी रेट ज्यादा है मगर इन्फेंट मोर्टालिटी रेट भी ज्यादा है. तो इस वजह से हाई नंबर ऑफ किड्स जैसे इंडिया में पहले होते थे, मगर मंगोलिया में हाई इन्फेंट फर्टिलिटी रेट नहीं है. तो फिर भी वहाँ पे बर्थ रेट डाउन आ गया था और उसके बाद ऊपर चला गया. उसका रीजन मिमेटिक ही है कि पीपल डू थिंग्स बिकॉज अदर पीपल आर डूइंग इट, और आपको इस हिसाब से कम्युनिटी को ऑर्गेनाइज करना पड़ता है कि दे follow good values.
Yeah, so that's what. Just to add to your statement, Tushar, like at the end of the day, it is also like a kind of a generational shift of things, right? Even in the South Indian states, if you notice that TFR it has reduced quite a bit. I mean, like that's why there are certain states that are really outproducing than the South as well. So ultimately, economic reasons are there, fine, but then at the end of the day, I feel like there is a mentality shift also amongst generation to generation. Like you will find a lot of present day generation kids calling the previous generation boomers, right? So, and they say that with contempt, like you're boomers, you're this, you're that. So it is like there is a slight fight back by this generation to live life a little bit differently. And I feel like all the countries, including India, is facing it. When you look at a lot of friends around also, you'll find some of your friends have decided not to have children, and that is happening, not even get married. So it's just one of those things as well.
एनवायरमेंटलिस्ट प्रोपेगेंडिस्ट को बहुत ज्यादा ब्लेम करना चाहूंगा. उनका एक बहुत मेजर रोल है कि बचपन से ही ह्यूमंस को विलनाइज करना कि ह्यूमंस की वजह से एनवायरमेंट डिस्ट्रॉय हो रहा है, और इस टाइप की मेंटालिटी की गिल्ट क्रिएट करना कि बेसिकली योर एग्जिस्टेंस इज अ बर्डन ऑन द प्लेनेट. तो प्रोपेगेंडा भी काफी हद तक ब्लेम करने के लिए है इस चीज के लिए.
So they somehow there are groups that have made all these sound cool as well. So some people have gone into that trap as well. So whatever reasons it is, at the moment this kind of rate cannot just be tied to the economic thing alone, because that's a factor too. But
yes, actually, I have a connection issue, so I'll just turn off the camera for a few seconds. Let me connect to another Wi-Fi. Till then, we'll take questions. So this question is from Vikhyat Verma. He says, Indic value is social responsibility, sir. That's a universal obligation. Social responsibility means taking care of the family, environment, and your neighbor. You are being very vague on your comprehension of Indic civilization values. So, what do you think?
It's a universal obligation.
वही तो बात है कि इंडिक सिविलाइजेशन कोई सेंट्रलाइजेशन इंटरप्रिटेशन है ही नहीं. धर्म, अर्थ, काम, मोक्ष ये कॉमन थ्रेड्स है, मगर इसके अलावा भी आपकी अलग इंटरप्रिटेशन हो सकती है. तो मैं तो वही कहना कोशिश कर रहा हूँ कि हमारी जो रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है, ये जो अकेली जो पॉलिथिस्टिक जो सिविलाइजेशन है, जो दैट हैज बीन एक्सेप्टिंग ऑफ ऑल, उसकी जो वैल्यूज है हम भी इसको होल्ड करते हैं कि मल्टीकल्चरलिज्म, दूसरों आप एज लॉन्ग एज यू आर माइंडिंग योर ओन बिजनेस, वी आर फाइन विद यू, गॉड इज योर पर्सनल मैटर, एंड we respect you as long as you don't aggress on others. तो ये इंट्रिंसिक टू इंडिया है और हम सब उसको अपनी लाइफ में प्रैक्टिस करते हैं, तो इस वजह से
I
हम
don't
pro
understand, what universal obligation is. So who, the king of the universe, is going to tell us what to do? No. Everything starts from your individual social responsibility. Where else does it begin? Charity
आप
does
खुद ही
begin at home. So
मोनोथेइस्टिक ट्रैप में फंस रहे हो अगर आप सोच रहे हो कि यूनिवर्सल ऑब्लिगेशन हो सकती है कि कोई वैल्यूज, क्योंकि कौन डिसाइड करेगा कि ये यूनिवर्सल वैल्यू है,
who is going to
और
decide?
जो भी डिसाइड
Like, do
करेगा
we,
उसके पास कहाँ से है ये अथॉरिटी, और अगर कोई उसके अगेंस्ट जाता है तो उसके साथ क्या किया जाएगा?
it is for this universal obligation purposes where religion is there. But a whole world religion as one, I don't know who can give you a universal obligation of anything. Either you are responsible or you are not. It is as
सिर्फ
simple as that. Your responsibility, you cannot take your responsibility and give it to somebody else. That's not called responsibility. So when you use the word responsibility, you are the first one in line for that word responsibility and for the meaning of the word.
Okay, so now I am going to take a few minutes to actually give a few book recommendations if people ask me. So the first book which I will tell everybody to read is A Dharmic Social History of India. So social and dharmic put together, very good book. People should read it to understand a lot of things. Second book, The Corporate Life in Ancient India. Okay, so he talked about it, that how ancient India was a kind of a ancient corporate system itself, where the free trade and everything else went put together. And where I put the last one, yeah, and this one, Hindu Rasa Darshan. Okay, so if you want to know, I have read through this book. Okay, so I think about like if you bar a few other things, most of the policies are actually quite liberal and free market and merit based as per the Hindu Mahasabha constitution, which I actually had read through. I also listened to the CSK podcast as well. So these are the few recommendations. If you want to understand Hindu society, if you want to understand the civilizational legacy that we have possessed and that we still live by, a lot has changed, but we can revive them once again if we have the chance to do it. Okay. Now we'll take few more questions. I have few more questions which were there. Let me just okay, so there are a lot of questions which are actually a response to a problem, not the core issue. So I will not take those questions because those are very specific questions based on the problems that you see now. The question should be on the principles कि भाई core problem क्या है, उस पे आप question करो. I will get that, but not on specific issues because that issue has come because of the flawed policies which we are going through for last 50, 70 years. So they will not help our cause. Okay, this is important. Vikhyat Verma, your thoughts on reclaiming temples that were broken by invaders and renaming locations on the same line. Is that, in your purview, is nationalism not compatible with your ideology? बहुत ही important question है. And thank you for asking this question.
ब्रोकन टेम्पल्स बाय इन्वेडर्स वो प्रॉपर्टी राइट्स का क्वेश्चन है, जैसे और राम मंदिर को भी प्रॉपर्टी राइट्स का इशू ही ट्रीट किया गया था, तो इट इज मतलब वो डिसाइड हुआ कि उसकी ओनरशिप किसकी बनती है, तो हमारा तो ऐसा कोई वो नहीं है, मतलब हम वी आर नॉट अगेंस्ट इट. अगर आपका क्लेम बनता है उस प्रॉपर्टी पे देन इट्स ऑलराइट, मगर अगर आप ये बात करो कि क्योंकि फिर बॉडी तो डिस्ट्रॉय हुई है एंशिएंट, मगर अब आप एग्जैक्टली ब्लेम नहीं कर सकते कि किस वजह से डिस्ट्रॉय हुई थी, तो हर किसी की हिस्ट्री डिसाइड करना कि ये इन्होंने ही किया है, वो एग्जैक्टली किया, तो वो थोड़ी प्रॉब्लम रहेगी. तो हाँ, मतलब हाँ, वी आर अगेंस्ट इट, मगर प्रॉपर्टी राइट, ये प्रॉपर्टी राइट्स का इशू है, जिसका भी क्लेम होगा, क्लेम टू द प्रॉपर्टी होगा. और इसमें उसको रिकॉग्नाइज नहीं किया जाएगा। जो मॉडर्न इंस्टीट्यूशन बन गया है वक्फ बोर्ड नाम से, उसको नहीं, उसका प्रॉपर्टी राइट्स पे कोई क्लेम नहीं है। मगर जो वो उस जगह के लोग हैं और दे हैव क्लेम टू हैव कि ये हमारी डीटी का सीक्रेट प्लेस है, तो दैट डिस्प्यूट विल बी अमंगस्ट देम। और
Okay.
सेकंड पार्ट क्वेश्चन क्या था?
Okay, let me. So the question was reclaiming of temples. जो temples तोड़े गए थे, जिनके प्रमाण है, those temples should be given back to the Hindu community.
नहीं, given back to me, fight your case। आपका अगर प्रॉपर्टी का राइट बनता तो ऑब्वियसली आपकी होगी। और रीनेमिंग लोकेशंस वो मतलब हम अगर आपका एरिया डिसाइड करता है कि हाँ हमें कुछ और नाम रखना है तो आप रख सकते हो। उसमें हमारा ऐसा कुछ हो नहीं है। Nationalism compatible with your ideology.
I mean, that's the beauty of the libertarian decentralized system. You want to rename something, that's more closer to your aspect of view, go ahead and do it. Like, see, these are the kind of things we don't want to get involved in, because there is your backdrop story in that, not the party story really.
मैं सिंपल तरीके से बताऊं कि रेफरी को क्या लेने देना, आपकी टीम का नाम क्या है? आपको बस रूल्स फॉलो करने चाहिए मैच के। रेफरी को क्या लेने देना आपकी टीम का नाम क्या है? और इंडिया पर व्यू इज रैशनलिज्म कंपैटिबल। नेशनलिज्म अगर उस तरीके से बात करें कि इफ इंडिविजुअल इज कंपेल्ड टू सैक्रिफाइस फॉर द गुड ऑफ द कम्युनिटी, नहीं, क्योंकि दैट इज एसेंशियली व्हाट डिक्टेटर्स यूज टू फाइट वॉर्स। तो नहीं, वो नहीं। मगर अगर उस तरीके से बात करें कि एक हमारी कलेक्टिव आइडेंटिटी है और वी शुड बी फील प्राइड और ये फिर हमारा कल्चर ग्रो करना चाहिए, कल्चरल स्फीयर में ऑलराइट है, मगर पॉलिटिकल स्फीयर में इट इज अ रोड टू टिरानी।
So in your context, the state will not have any political ideology.
पॉलिटिकल है ना, पॉलिटिकल आइडियोलॉजी इंडिविजुअल लिबर्टी है, ऐसा नहीं है कि आइडियोलॉजी
we will not interfere in your freedom to do things. That is where
individual
the libertarian system.
Individual liberty ही state की आइडियोलॉजी की, we are the protectors of individual liberty and property.
So we will not come up with some strange law saying that, hey, from now on, these type of people only should occupy this area, or this is the language you should speak, or this is you're the only market you can invest in is the real estate market, and this because we have offered subsidies there. The only thing you can do is people from this particular state will get better farm subsidies than the people of another state. No. When the libertarian policy comes in for everybody, it will be the similar thing. It will be a simple taxation system. It will be a simple. There'll be no taxes in a lot of cases, because we want to allow people to grow freely. That's how the country grows as well, and that will be our only thing.
एक चीज और, प्लेसेस ऑफ वर्शिप एक्ट को भी उड़ाया जाएगा। वो एक पॉलिटिकल बायस्ड लॉ है, उसको भी उड़ाया जाएगा। उसका कोई सेंस नहीं बनता। आप एक स्पेसिफिक कम्युनिटी को टारगेट करके कैसे लॉज बना सकते हो?
No. You cannot do that.
Yeah, so I will just add one more point to the question. So if you listen to sane people, okay, who talk sense in general, okay, people might think they are insane, but in general people, they make sense. Human civilization over the millennia, okay, over thousands of years, okay, have created mechanisms to actually make some specific customs, traditions, rules, which actually had helped them to survive. Okay, because we have started after the advent of agriculture, we were living in thousands of groups, and when you live in thousands of groups, you would need some specific first principles on which the group will be able to survive. Example would be an external aggression. If tomorrow some other enemy country invades us, okay, then as a rational choice, everybody would say, okay, I will contribute this amount of resource to fight the enemy. Now, that choice is with the state, or is the choice with the communities themselves? कि नहीं, हमको नहीं लड़ना है, हम कुछ नहीं करेंगे. That's it's a difficult question. So,
not really.
Choice is with the community, मगर इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि they can't be persuaded. अब जैसे
Yeah.
वर्ल्ड वॉर 2 की बात है, वर्ल्ड वॉर 2 में वो नहीं था, मैंडेटरी नहीं था ज्वाइन करना स्टार्टिंग में, तो पीपल यूज्ड टू शेम दोज हु डिडंट जॉइन द आर्मी, तो वो मैकेनिज्म भी ऑपरेट करता ही है, और पीपल रिबेल करते हैं अगर आप स्टार्टिंग से ही आपने ये लॉ बना रखा हो कि मैंडेटरी सर्विस वाला, तो और भी मैकेनिज्म होते हैं दूसरे को परसुएड करने के, तो जरूरी नहीं है कि अगर मैंडेटरी नहीं है तो पीपल वोंट जॉइन, अब मैंडेटरी है तब भी पीपल कैन रिबेल, सो द पॉइंट इज यू स्टिल नीड टू परसुएड देम टू जॉइन, तो कोई डिफरेंस नहीं, ज्यादा मेजर डिफरेंस नहीं आता। हाँ, थोड़ा लगता है कि चीजें इजी हो जाती है मगर
Okay, I think we have covered almost all the questions, important questions which needed further discussion. So I'll take one more question. This is the last question I'll take. Is a new viewer and subscriber. So can you tell me in brief about what is the current context of government overreach on culture and religion and etc., which you think are problematic and which needs to go?
फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल तो कंट्रोल ऑफ टेम्पल्स ही हो गया, उसके बाद ये सेकंड सबसे पहले टेम्पल्स ही आता है, और उसके बाद फिर हिंदू कोड बिल जो भी है, उसके बाद फिर मतलब फिर आप माइनर्स में जाना शुरू कर दो कि जैसे ये प्लेसेस ऑफ वर्शिप एक्ट हो गया, इस तरीके से मतलब चीजें, मतलब आप बेसिकली आपने कुछ हद तक रिजर्वेशन भी इसी एस्पेक्ट है कि गवर्नमेंट इज इंटरफेयरिंग इन द कल्चर और अब उस तरीके से नहीं मैं कह रहा कि कास्ट डिस्क्रिमिनेशन एग्जिस्ट करनी चाहिए, उसको कंफ्यूज नहीं करना चाहिए, मगर मैं कह रहा हूँ कि गवर्नमेंट ओवर रीच इन कल्चर का ही नतीजा है कि अभी भी कास्ट सिस्टम सर्वाइव कर रहा है।
Understood.
The problems that we have been continuously having have been continuously occurring on various levels, depending on what is instigated at what time. But the underlying thing has not changed for ages. Like everything from the Citizenship Amendment Act, the National Registry of Citizens, it's like almost like we are being painted into a corner, slowly personal liberties are being taken. Like I can understand, okay, if there is a problem that, a center wants more information from you. Hey, what do you do? What is but having everybody's information can now lead to a point as, okay, what if this is misused in some way, right? For the people who are not involved in anything and who are going in their everyday life. So these anti-conversion laws, temple management, cultural imposition, like what is the need to go in there and say, hey, you have to learn 3 languages or 4 languages? What is the need to create that kind of tension? Yeah, why? It's happening right now. Why create that tension? Why do you want that tension? Why? What is this conformity that you are looking for? Everybody has to wear one color. What is this? Are we like aliens from these movies that you see where we all wear white overalls and walk around? Like what is your obsession with this conformity is where we are coming from. Let people be vibrant and individual. Like even responses to communal violence, hate speech, and even free speech, like that guy Ranveer being dragged across. Like, I mean, that was pathetic to watch. I mean, like, why would you get involved? You better things to do, David. Like, why are you running behind a comedian when there are like cases around that are? So these are the overreaches that we are saying, like, don't get involved unless you absolutely have to. Because if you get the government, if you want the government to sort out problems in your life, we'll introduce more problems, in your life than we can actually solve.
लोग बार बार भूल, पीपल हेट पॉलिटिशियंस एंड ब्यूरोक्रेट्स, मगर वो अगर गवर्नमेंट की फसाड के अंदर आ जाते तो ऑटोमेटिकली वो रिलायबल और ट्रस्टवर्दी हो जाते हैं। पता नहीं ये कोई डिसोनेंस थोड़ी फील नहीं होती कि गवर्नमेंट इज पॉलिटिशियंस एंड ब्यूरोक्रेट्स, यू हेट बोथ पॉलिटिशियंस एंड ब्यूरोक्रेट्स बट यू लाइक द कलेक्टिव गवर्नमेंट, कैसे?
Understood. So we will finish our session for today. It's been a really good discussion. I think we have touched upon a very interesting topics which were not discussed in previous iterations in many channels. So hopefully we will get some more. I have one surprise for you. I kept it as a last thing. Let me share my screen. You might like it because I am working on these for tirelessly
Okay.
for so many times on this. Let me just find it for you. Hey, where it went? Hold on.
ये पीयूष समिट में आ रहे हैं, समिट में करता हूँ डिटेल में आंसर।
अरे समिट में हम नहीं आ सकते हैं because I have a person coming in from outside India on a visit.
सर ये
तो-
जिन्होंने क्वेश्चन करा लास्ट पीयूष ने, ये आ रहे हैं समिट में।
पीयूष आ रहा है? अच्छा पीयूष ने आ रहा है। अच्छा वेरी गुड, वेरी गुड। So I cannot come. I wanted to come, but I cannot come because there is a individual who is coming to meet me, and there are some other things which are going on. So give me 30 seconds. I need to find that document where I kept the document. Okay, it is here. Got it. Hold on. Yeah, okay. I have the document now. So if you see here, so I am working with a few individuals and organizations, okay, on a detailed, principled policy positions on all the issues which we have, okay. So probably maybe we will have a discussion on this later once I start working with them. So now, so it has a detailed policy from foreign policy to your economics to your cultural policies in detail, in problems, solutions, and how we will do this in broad outlines. So that we will discuss someday when we start working on this. So which are see, so that the name is insignificant, content is more important. What has been talked about. Okay. So one thing which I would like you to do, okay, is to actually give a kind of give a bit of a concrete problem solution interface so that people can actually see through what you're trying to say. Okay, because a lot of people, even my audience and other audience, would like to see what exactly you will do step by step to actually fix the problem. That actually convinces people to actually, okay, yes, your solution has some credence rather than just overview statement.
सबसे easiest तरीका बताऊं, go to X, go to Grok, ask them what will LPI say, and it will answer really well.
Actually,
Good,
yeah, that's
good.
true. Because we have been posting content, a lot of content as well. So at the end of the day, Nava, I mean, like if we have an event, like we are doing an event now in Delhi, of course, March 29th, which you know is going. But we are planning to do other things in Bangalore, Chennai, and all of these places. So I think you should also come and present your cases, because this is what we want. We don't want to be the ones who are sitting down and just writing and telling you what to do. That's the beauty of this government. That's why we are conducting these events also. This is a place of real discussion. It is a place of intellectual growth. Government should be that. And for us, that's what it signifies. It signifies discussion. It signifies a lot of talking. It signifies, you know, for us, it signifies your personal beliefs. So that's why we feel that these events also are going to bring a lot of people a lot closer to the ideology, in terms of the fact that your voice will be heard, and you know, these are the things that you can implement in a decentralized system on your own. You don't even need our blessings. So that's what we are trying to say. You don't really require our blessings. If the Libertarian Party is around, you will have full reign to actually see your manifesto go through with your community, your panchayat, your things. You will be able to see that go through. You know, like Tushar and me won't do anything to stop this. We'll say if it works for you, it works for you. Good. Go for it. Show the rest of the world how it's done, you know.
अगर entrepreneurship terms में बात करें तो test for your idea isn't कि how good it sounds to the investor, but how good it actually is to the consumer. तो उसी प्रिंसिपल पे ऑपरेट करें. अगर रियलिटी में अगर आपका आइडिया एक्चुअली यूजफुल है, दूसरे लोग उसको कॉपी करेंगे, मगर अगर वो यूजफुल नहीं है तो फिर यू विल फेल. मगर आपके फेलियर की वजह से पूरी सोसाइटी पे कोई इम्पैक्ट नहीं आना चाहिए. हमारी अटेम्प्ट वही है कि आप एक्सपेरिमेंट करो, आपके पास पूरी फ्रीडम है, मगर आपके पास सबको हार्म करने का फ्रीडम नहीं है.
We are tired of that corrosion with conformity, staying with that conformance, because we are not improving. We are not improving in a lot of areas. We are not ahead of the curve in a lot of areas. Like, for example, even China with their weird policies or whatever it is you can call it, they at least have figured out some economic situation to it, that there is a battery vendor who has upset the entire automobile market, even after an American car company has been on the forefront of this for so many years. Who thought that was possible? We need to also be ahead of the curve, and the only way to do that is to bring individuals to light rather than one center trying to make these sort of decisions, and that's what we believe. So if you are a person with ideas,
जहाँ तक उसकी बात है, we can definitely हम थोड़ा और एडवांस जाएंगे, हम एक थोड़ा sort of chatbot build करने की कोशिश करेंगे जो आपके questions का आंसर दे सके
Right.
अच्छे से.
Yeah, because actually you need a kind of like a 100-page, 200-page document where you take questions, questions which are there, and then you try to address them in a general way with some specific inputs. Okay, this is we will do. So that actually gives a bit more perspective. Okay, you actually want to do something about it rather than being more rhetoric, less rhetoric, and more on the context and details.
So what we have started is something called.
जहाँ तक उसकी डॉक्यूमेंट की बात है, तो अभी जो समिट आएगा उसमें मैं विजन फॉर लिबर्टेरियन इंडिया, वो मतलब 360-100 पेजेस के आसपास की होगी, उसमें सारे एस्पेक्ट्स कवर किए जाएंगे. आप उसको प्रॉम्प्ट करके उसमें से चेकआउट कर सकते हो कि इस बारे में क्या बोला, इस बारे में क्या बोला, इस बारे में क्या बोला.
Also, we have a group called Thindanai Group, which is Thindanai is thinking and
think tank.
So we have a think tank. So they are writing a lot of articles now, basically factual articles as well, that compare statistics, that compare how things can improve, like statistically, if we make certain policy changes, and also connecting our history with different stuff. So it's called the Thindanai think tank. They are on X as well. So we just started that initiative, and that's being run by guys like Dhruv and all of that. So you should be able to hear more and more about our deep thoughts on the subject of libertarianism in India.
क्योंकि अभी मार्क्सिज्म, सारा लिटरेचर ही मार्क्सिस्ट है और सबकी लेंस ही मार्क्सिस्ट बनी हुई है. उस लेंस को उतारना और नई लेंस को पहनना कि अच्छा देखना कि अच्छा ये ऑल्टरनेट व्यू भी है, और ये इसके एग्जांपल्स ज्यादा है उसके थ्योरी के मुकाबले. तो फिर आपको रियलाइज होगा कि कितना बड़ा साइऑप चला रखा था सोशलिस्ट ने 75 ईयर से हमारे साथ. तो चीजें हैं अभी प्रोग्रेस में. आप ट्रस्ट मी, things will be way better when you are free as compared to when you are enslaved.
Yeah. So let's solve our own problems.
Yes, it's all our legacy problem. So legacy problem धीरे-धीरे solve करनी पड़ेगी. But I think it is about negotiations. Okay, we are negotiating with ourselves. We are negotiating with our siblings, with our family, with our society, and with the state. Okay. Now the negotiation power is with the state. They have overarching thing, and now individual has no negotiation power.
Wait, exactly.
So now with your principles, you are trying to give the individual a little bit of more negotiation power that it can access, and it can has agency to actually deal with the state and the society. Okay, and that has been going on. So you have Hinduism, or you have Sanatan Dharma, then you had Buddhism come in, then again a negotiation, a kind of a within the two took place. Okay, and some historical things happened, and then Buddhism waned. So these negotiations will go on. Okay, that's how society functions itself, and ideas will come and emerge. If they are good enough for the society, for the overall good society, they will persist, or they will perish. Because Buddhism actually perished because it had some flaws. It didn't have the Varna system, which actually made sure that society was able to sustain itself over millennia, and it could not do this. So on that note, we will finish the program for today. So again, I will ask people, you have a lot of questions, correct? How things function. Okay, read this book. Okay, the Dharmic Social History of India. Okay, this is something very good work which is done. I need to go through it. I don't have the time right now, but I'll go through it. So a lot of things, and also I will ask Anup and also to read it actually, because in general we don't have a lot of knowledge on our own history, culture, how we had a system which was evolved over thousands of years, and we can actually borrow those systems into our own modern ways of life to actually make it much more improve in terms of how we humans actually work. Waking up in the morning is the best thing for you. You cannot do it, it does not mean it is bad. It is a good thing because your biology is built to wake up at morning, not at midnight. So on that, we'll say thank you to Tushar, thank you to Anup for coming, and let's see if you have an event in South India. So I'll certainly be joined, and I will also working on this
नेक्स्ट वन सर,
document. बोलो बोलो.
नेक्स्ट वन अभी है, अभी थोड़ा हमारी चल रही है कि मुंबई में करें या बैंगलोर में करें, नेक्स्ट साउथ में ही है, नेक्स्ट 3 मुंबई में होगा तो फिर अगला बैंगलोर में होगा, बैंगलोर में होगा तो नेक्स्ट मुंबई में होगा, और उसके बाद फिर हैदराबाद में.
I will advise one thing कि शहरों में don't do this in cities proper. आप थोड़ा सा सिटी से हट के करो, because actually cities except मतलब हर शहर इतना congested है कि people get tired of it. Anup, and you will know it, correct? How bad the cities are. Okay, if people are traveling to that spaces, they can spend a few more bucks and go a little bit outside city ताकि वो ठीक से बात कर पाए. बिकॉज आई विल टेल यू, यू हैव लिव्ड इन सिटीज. भाई वो फ्लाइट से आएगा, वो ट्रैफिक से जाके वो थक जाएगा, वो कुछ बोल ही नहीं पाएगा. ओके, विद द काइंड ऑफ पोल्यूशन वी हैव. सो आई वुड, दैट इज माय एडवाइस एंड सजेशन कि ऐसी जगह करो जहां पर थोड़ा सा एक्सेसिबिलिटी ठीक ठाक हो और इन्वायरमेंट ताकि वो फील रिलैक्स फील करे. एक कॉन्क्रीट जंगल में मत करो. आई थिंक दैट माइट हेल्प. So on that note, thank you very much to both of you for coming, for answering questions. A lot of good, bad comments, but that will go on. We have to go beyond that and work and convince people. So you guys are doing a good job. Maybe read few more books. I will tell you more books to read so that you can get better understanding of Indic civilization, its systems and customs, and we can make our society prosper. And when we prosper, Hindu society, Hindu cultural civilizations will prosper automatically. So that's how it should be. So thank you. Jai Shri Ram, Vande Mataram. Okay, hold on. We have Shastri. Yeah, it should be. So thank you. Yes, sir. Jai Shri Ram, Vande Mataram. Shastri, you need to turn off that. This one. We have Shastri. Yeah, it should be. Yeah. I think he has running that YouTube. You can actually just mute the volume of your YouTube and then you can speak. Okay, he left. We'll give him a minute if he wants to talk, and then we will wind up for the day. Maybe we will have one more session a bit later. So then we can have a session exclusively with people who have a lot of reservations. So maybe we have 2 or 3 people. Shastri, if you are okay, conclude. Thank you. Okay, so thank you. Jai Shri Ram, Vande Mataram.
Dhanyawad.
Thank you.